bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's January 30th. It's a Thursday. That means we are taking your Thursday thoughts on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. There are lots of thoughts. There are lots of conflicting thoughts. There are lots of people who are scared, worried, frustrated, maybe angry. Maybe. I've seen a few. I don't know if I've seen them directly at us, but no. It's a maze of emotions right now for everybody, not just the United fans.
A lanyap of emotions.
A what?
A lanyap of emotions.
A lanyap of emotions. That's John Nelson. He's still cutting back on caffeine, and he's feisty this morning, so I'm a little scared. Like I dial him up on Skype to get us started, and he's already like railing about something. It's like, wow, okay,
out of the blocks, baby.
That's scary. So yeah, John might snap at people today. That'd be a good change since I guess I've been doing that lately. It's just been an interesting offseason. I can't wait till there's actual games to talk about. And hey, that leads us to something very interesting. Saturday, Atlanta United playing IFs Elfsborg from Sweden. You can watch that game, atlutd.com/live. You can also listen to the commentary on that game, which will include Kevin Egan and myself. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Ooh.
Looking forward to actually talking about a game. It will be wonderful instead of transfer strategies and outrage and all of it. So 5 o'clock Saturday, Atlanta United and Elfsborg from Sweden. Watch on atlutd.com/live, typically on the website where they host live events. And Kevin and I will be on commentary. So there you go. There's some good news for you this morning. How about that?
Looking forward to hearing how the guys from the Allsvenskan will compete with Atlanta United.
Yeah, it's a team that plays Nashville today in a friendly. I think it's at 3 o'clock. I've not seen anything in the way of streaming options for that one. We're getting to the stage of preseason where games are going to start becoming more widely available. I think the Tucson, Arizona games will all be on YouTube. They have been in the past, so we'll try to share some of those and post our schedule once we see games that are going to consistently be available. We'll try to post them up on soccerdownhere.net. But Elfsborg plays that today. The Swedish league is very interesting as I've kind of dug into it. They don't get back into league play. The 2020 season doesn't start until April. But they do a cup, and they'll do group stage of that cup at the end of February. So it's kind of a weird off season for them, and look, a lot of this has to do with weather and climate and what you can do in Sweden in certain times of the year, which isn't much. So that's why they're training in Florida for quite a while. So they'll be in kind of discovery mode. This is a team that finished in the middle of the pack in Sweden last year. It's a team that's had quite a few new players come up from their academy program. A few new faces come into the team. Some longtime players leave the club. So it's still kind of coming together for them. Good test for Atlanta United on Sunday, and a different kind of test, or on Saturday. It's a different kind of test. It's a team that will be a little different than a typical MLS team. Level-wise, I don't think they're at that same level. But they're going to play in a little bit different way. So style of play will be good. Just playing somebody different will be good for Atlanta United. And this is coming on the heels of a 4-0 win yesterday. Doug Robertson was there. He's going to join us at 10:30 this morning to tell us all about it. He tweeted all about it yesterday, and there were a lot of things to tweet in the first half with 4 goals in the first 45 minutes.
And for those that kind of caught the highlights and caught what was sent out there, it was very, very fast and very, very pretty. That's my Cliff's Notes version of the highlights.
Okay, that would sum it up.
It was quick. It was very, very quick from one end of the field to the other. Crisp passing. very unselfish, back of the net very frequently. So it was fun to watch.
Yes. Good things all through it. I mean, some little things that stood out to me from watching the 5-minute highlight package. Fernando Meza defending 1v1 on Ilsinho. Like to see that. Some good defensive plays from George Bello and George Campbell in the second half. Brooks Lennon was all over the right side and getting in behind, but also coming back and defending, covering just a ton of ground. That's going to give you a different element on that right side. And Pitti and Barco and Joseph all look very sharp right now. So things are coming together for Frank DeBoer and Atlanta United. We'll see how they look on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to seeing, I mean, not just the obvious things like what the starting lineup looks like. Do you see these little societies on the field continue to grow? I want to see Will Riley. I want to see Tyler Wolf, the academy players who are with the team. I want to see Lawrence Wyke and how he looks at this level, an Atlanta United 2 player who's been playing and training with the first team. I want to see how the new additions look on the field, not just in a highlight, but how they carry themselves, what their work is off the ball, those kinds of things. It's going to be a fun time on Saturday, so go ahead and mark your calendar, 5 o'clock, set your notification to watch on atlutd.com/live. All right. Bunch of news to get to before we just dig into Thursday thoughts, because there's been a lot of things that have popped off around the league, around the country in the last couple of days. Minnesota, I feel like we've talked about Luis Amarilla for quite a while. Deal finally is done. It's a 12-month loan. There's an option to buy at the end of it. He's coming over from Vélez Sarsfield. He played last year in Ecuador with Universidad Católica. Scored 19 goals in 24 games. That's pretty good. Mark Watson, their technical director for the Loons, said Luis is someone who will be a big addition for us up front. He's a goal scorer. He was a Vélez player, but on loan at Católica in Ecuador. And watching his goals, his movement, he's got everything we're looking for in a striker. Adrian Heath went down, and it was kind of an interesting story at the Star Tribune. Jerry Zagota with a great article. Heath went to scout somebody else. And it was a playoff match between LDU Quito and Universidad Católica. He saw Amarilla and got hooked. He said, I went to look at somebody else, and while I was in the stadium, I rang people here and said, there's a kid here I really like. The more we worked on it, the more we've had a chance to look long and hard about it. He caught my eye not only because of what he did, but it was his work rate. We spoke to him. He's really hungry. He can't wait to get here. He's got all the tools. There are certain characteristics you look for. This guy has a little of everything. And when you add him to a team that was a good team last year, a good defensive team last year, Osvaldo Alonso, in a separate piece at the Star Tribune, said, we have to make the next step and win a championship. I don't think to make the playoff. I don't think about the Open Cup final. I'm thinking to win MLS Cup is my goal this year. We want more because I know we're capable of more. How you feel about Minnesota right now, John?
Better than I did yesterday or 2 days ago. I know that's a relative term, but we've been talking consistently about putting the ball in the back of the net. And if Mark Watson and Adrian Heath are sold on the fact that Amarilla is a goal scorer and that can translate up here to MLS, that's leaning toward fixing the problem that we've been talking about in the offseason. So, all right, let's see it. Let's see how well he integrates and how long it takes for him to hit the ground running when it comes to what Adrian Heath wants to do.
Right now with Minnesota, Amarilla, Tyler Miller are your big 2 additions. Darwin Quintero is your big subtraction. You're looking at a lineup today that would probably be Miller in goal, Chase Gasper, Ike Opara, Michael Boxall as your center backs, Gasper on the left, Metanire on the right. Holding midfield, 2 the best in the league, Osvaldo Alonso, Jan Gregush. This is where I want to see how the pieces look behind Amarilla. I expect they'll be in a 4-2-3-1. So is it Laud on one side, Finley on the other, and Kevin Molino in the holes, the number 10? Does Tomas Chacon step in and get that number 10 shirt. He's a young player who didn't really show much last year, but he's a young designated player. The expectations are big for him. That's the part now. Now that you've got the goal scorer, you have Mason Toye who can support Amaria, sometimes play next to him, sometimes play out wide. Now the question is, who's going to pull the strings? Who's going to be the player behind that striker? Who's going to be the player behind Amaria? Is it Molino? Is it Chacon? How is it going to come together with that? I think defensively it's a good team. There were some questions about Tyler Miller. He played well in 2 years for LAFC, but there were some mistakes that people kind of gravitate towards.
Yes.
Is he going to be as good as Vito Manone was, goalkeeper of the year last year in the league? Is he going to be better? Is he going to be worse? That's another question. Now that you've answered the big one, which was getting a proven goal scorer. And look, 19 goals in 24 games. It is the Ecuadorian league. This is a goal scorer. Does it work with this team? We'll have to wait and see. But the pedigree is there. That's not a question. Now it's next level. Is it Molino? Is it Chacon behind him? And is Tyler Miller going to be the guy to help this team take another step? Because they were very good last year. Open Cup final, they were the number 4 seed in the West. Can they be higher in the West? Can they compete to win MLS Cup this year, like Osvaldo Alonso said? I don't know if I'm there, but I think this gives them at least the ability to maintain where they're at.
Yeah, for me, the two, as you were laying out the case of what they may be up to in the West, the fighting chance and opportunity were the 3 words that popped into my head. Are they championship material in the West? No, but I think that this obviously upgrades them from where everybody saw them over the last little while. And it's now, all right, Tyler Miller's between the sticks. What's that going to look like when you don't have Vito Manone anymore? We know about the defense. You've got your goal scorer.
Hold on. Tyler Miller was part of the best team in MLS history last year. So, I mean, yeah, there's questions. I mean, how much did he contribute to that? But it's not like you're bringing in somebody who's not proven into that role. So
no, you're not bringing in a scrub. That wasn't my point.
Yeah. I mean, but it's not like, to me, it's not like, Manone was so great and Miller, we don't know what he is. We know he's good. Can he be goalkeeper of the year good? And how much of that was down to Manone having a great year, the defense in front of him, all the different combinations. I don't think they'll have a massive step back, even if Miller is not Manone level. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. I'm not expecting it to be anyway.
But I'm still looking at Minnesota as they're not top of the West material for me, but I am looking forward to seeing how things from in the West.
Yeah, just LAFC. Because you were very clear, and I'm not quite to that degree of saying they are not a contender. I don't want to go there, but you're saying they're not. So who is that next step ahead of Minnesota?
LAFC.
I mean, you mentioned that one, and
that one. LAFC's over there.
They're the favorite in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I'm looking at a healthy Sporting Kansas City, especially with adding Polito.
Okay.
As a part of the discussion. Seattle, for me, I was like, I've still got defensive questions. I would still have them as part of the discussion, but I don't know.
Not until they address them. I'm not going. I mean, I think we're at a point now where can that change by the time the season kicks off? 100%. But I'm looking at teams as they currently stand at this point, and I can't put Seattle there until we see more, until they bring in more pieces, because I think they've lost a lot. I like Minnesota right now better than Seattle.
And then I like, obviously, the Galaxy is the shiny object with Chicharito.
But are they better than Minnesota?
We haven't seen them play yet, and that's the biggest thing.
Well, of course, but I'm asking you to make a prediction. Because last year they weren't, but they beat them in the playoffs.
Right. I think that I'm still looking at defense for the Galaxy though.
Yeah,
And
I mean that's still
the
an issue.
questions that I had.
That's the Galaxy. What have they changed? They've added Chicharito in place of Zlatan. They have added Emiliano Insua at left back.
Right.
That should be a good addition. They've added Alexander Katai instead of Roman Alessandrini, who was injured for most of last season. But for the Galaxy, and Guillermo Barros Escaloto has typically played a 4-3-3, so let's work from that kind of perspective. Bingham in goal versus Tyler Miller, I think it's a push. Backline, Insua, Giancarlo Gonzalez, Daniel Steres, Rolf Felcher. That's probably your group going in. Jorgen Skjelvik could push Steres to the side. And that's versus Gasper, Opara, Boxall, Metanire.
Minnesota.
Yeah, until we see Insua, until we see what group of four in LA we get, I would go Minnesota too. I think Metanire is one of the best right backs in the league. Gasper has room to grow, and Opara is one of the best center backs in the league. So I'll go Minnesota there with you. Holding midfield, Jonathan Dos Santos, Joe Corona versus Osvaldo Alonso, Jan Gregus. I'm going slightly Minnesota, but very slightly.
I was going push.
I mean, Jonah is top quality. Corona was pretty underrated last year. I'll go slightly on the other side because I think Alonso and Gregus are just a little bit better. But then this is where it dramatically changes. Your wingers, Katai and Christian Pavone versus Ethan Finley and Robin Laud. Galaxy. It's not even close to me. The number 10 or central midfield, we don't know who it's going to be for Minnesota. If it's Molino, if it's Chacon. For the Galaxy, it's somebody between Sebastian Lletget, Efrain Alvarez, Sasha Kljestan here and there. I'm going to go Galaxy because there's more proven there.
Yeah,
and
my whole
has always been a bit of a disappointment to me.
My whole vibe on Galaxy ahead of Minnesota was just the feeling that even with the defensive question marks, that they probably would just outscore a lot of folks.
No, that's what we're going through right here. This is what it's proven out because Chicharito is more proven than Luis Amarilla. So you're talking about better wingers, better options as the 10, a better forward, holding midfield close, but maybe Minnesota's a little bit better. Defensively, right now, Minnesota's better. Goalkeeper's a push, I would say. But I'd rate Bingham fairly high, and not everybody does. So I would go with the defense as a whole. Minnesota is better. The attack as a whole, the Galaxy is better. And by a pretty wide margin. And there goes John for a second. He's whistling at us, I guess. All right, we're going to mute John for a minute, and we'll move on. I think it's really close. I think it's really close between the two. And John's back laughing now that he has made noises in the phone and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Galaxy slightly better than Minnesota. I can roll with that for now, but Amarilla could change some of that if they figure out if it's Molino, if it's Chacon, and they're able to give you something strong. Minnesota, in my opinion, has more room to grow from what they have currently than the Galaxy do. I don't think the Galaxy suddenly get a whole lot better defensively unless they're bringing in other players that we don't see yet.
Right.
Minnesota, I think that attack has the potential to be a good bit better than it was last year, even with Quintero gone. So, and I don't think they're going to have that huge step back with Miller, and the back line and holding midfield is pretty much the same. So I think Minnesota has the potential to be better, but going into it, I would lean Galaxy because of those questions about Minnesota's ability to score goals. Until we see Amarilla, until we see who the number 10 is going to be, I'll lean to the Galaxy. LAFC is better. Sporting Kansas City has to show a little bit. I think they have the potential to be better. I want to see what this back line looks like because they're somewhat similar to the Galaxy in that we know between Polito, Johnny Russell, Gerso, Daniel Shallowy, Ilie, Felipe Gutierrez, Gianluca Busio, Roger Espinoza, midfield and attack, very, very good. Polito solves the problem they've had since they traded Dom Dwyer. Backline, Graham Zusi's another year older. Matt Beasler's another year older. Luis Martins, we need to see it. Who's going to pair with Beasler? Because you would assume that he's the starter, but maybe that's not an assumption to make. Andreo Fonta, Spotan Barat, Graham Smith, the newcomer Roberto Punchek. Who is going to be the pairing center back? Until we see that, until we see them play and how this group comes together, I can't put them ahead of Minnesota or the Galaxy just yet.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking the same way. I was looking at Sporting, a healthy Sporting, the same way I was looking at the Galaxy, and with the addition of Polito. So I guess I had.
It's not just health, though. That's my question about Kansas City. That's why I wanted to go through it. Yeah, they had horrible luck with injuries last year, and that affected their season for sure. But defensively, there are questions. There are questions. Does Graham Zusi have the ability to get forward as much as he has in the past? That's been a huge part of Kansas City's attack. If he doesn't, and if he does but doesn't have the ability to get back, you're going to have some issues. And I don't know what the pairing is at center back right now. That might take some time to figure out. The left side, you're replacing Seth Sinovic, who's been there forever. Is Martin's going to be the guy? Does Amadou Dia step up from USL Championship and surprise everybody? Until they prove it defensively, I can't rank them in a preseason ranking higher than the bottom end of the playoffs. Like, LAFC is the team to beat. I think everybody can agree on that. They've gotten better in the offseason. So you put them up top. Then what? And this is where it's hard in the West, because the Galaxy have potential, but they have questions. Minnesota has potential, but they have questions. Sporting Kansas City, potential, but they have questions. Seattle still has to go shopping. Questions. Portland, questions. And they're still bringing guys in. And how do their pieces fit together? Questions. The West has the potential to be really deep, really difficult, but there's a lot of questions when you dig into these teams.
So is it deep and difficult, or is it wide open underneath LAFC?
It depends on how the questions get answered. Because if, let's say that you get no's to, can Sporting Kansas City defend? Okay, that's going to be a problem. If Luis Amarilla doesn't come in and solve their problem scoring goals, Minnesota's got the same problem they had last year. They have limitations. Sporting Kansas City, if they don't figure this defensive thing out, it's just Seattle, if they don't get the right players in. Portland, if they don't figure out how to bolster an attack that is really good but is aging, with Valeri, with Sebastian Blanco. LAFC, your questions about LAFC are a different level of question.
Yes.
It's not, can they be good enough to win the conference? You know that. But can they be good enough to win MLS Cup? Can they be good enough to win CONCACAF Champions League? That's the world that LAFC is playing in. I don't think there's anybody else in the West that is playing in that level. It doesn't mean that you just go ahead and crown LAFC. That's not how sports work. We all know that. But going in, that's their question. Can they win MLS Cup? Can they be a little bit tougher in the middle of the field? Can Francisco Janela or Jose Cifuentes come in and create a different look for this midfield? Can Vela repeat what he did? Does Brian Rodriguez become a bigger part of this group? Questions. Who's going to be in goal? Is it Vermeer? Is it Cisniega? Bob Bradley's kind of backed off of just giving the number one shirt to Vermeer. He wants him to earn it. That's fine. So you're talking about questions, but they're more of, is LAFC going to get 60 points or are they going to get 75? Whereas everybody else, and Real Salt Lake was third in the West last year, and there's questions, especially with Savarino now gone. So everybody beyond that's got a different type of question. LAFC is the clear-cut favorite in the West today. I think they will be on the eve of the season. And I want to see if any of these other teams can answer some of those questions in the next month before we get to opening day. If they can get to that level, to that conversation of, is this a 70-point team? I don't think anybody... There's nobody that I would put that juice box down on outside of LAFC in the West right now.
Right.
I think they're the one. I think others have potential, and they could be, but it's going to have to be in answering those questions effectively.
Yeah, and that's the deal here. It's, you know, that LAFC is trying to answer a bunch of different things. It's a different level of question for them, whereas everybody else is trying to sit there and figure out, okay, the West and MLS, where LAFC has a different level of question that they're trying to chase here.
Yeah, it's a different conversation entirely. So, okay, let's take that over to the East, because this is where there have been a lot of questions and a lot of concerns and everything about Atlanta United. We went through some of the lineup possibilities with other teams. Let's do that in the East when you look at the contenders. So, New York City has questions about the manager because he's new, Ronny Deila. Is he going to continue with what we saw under Dome Tarrant? Let's assume that he does. Let's assume that he sticks with that kind of way of playing in the early going. He's kind of implied that, but you know how difficult that is. Everybody has their own way of looking at the game. But if you go in and that's your mentality today, Sean Johnson in goal, 3 center backs because they were playing 3 in the back, and it was Callan, Chanot, Sands. Wing backs, Ronald Matarrita, Anton Tennerholm. Okay. Midfield, Alexander Ring, Keaton Parks. Okay. Front 3, I think theirs would be today Matriza, Morales, Eber. And Matriza and Morales would kind of tuck in underneath Eber. Matriza can drift out wider. Morales is going to operate more centrally, create that space on the right side for Tennerholm to bomb forward. There are variations from that. You've got Sebastian Ibeaga, who can come into the back line. Sands could go into the midfield if you wanted to. You've got Gideon Zalalem trying to earn a spot with NYC. He could change that midfield up a little bit. You've got options out wide in Jesus Medina, Gary Mackay-Steven, Ismail Tajori-Shradi. Valentin Castellanos can play up top. He can play in that hole behind the striker. He could play out wide too. So, you don't really have any questions about that lineup.
Mm-mm.
You've got pretty much the same as last season with the exception of bringing Zalalem into the mix. You've got everybody from day one. NYC, if they didn't change the manager, I think would be the favorite in the Eastern Conference today, right now, January 30th. That just opens a door for a question. It's a different kind of question, a much different question than the teams we talked about in the West. But yeah, you want to see, how that comes together. It doesn't always happen overnight. Toronto made it to MLS Cup. We look at Greg Vanney's squad and what they could look like. They're not going to have Michael Bradley for a while. Quentin Westberg is the number 1 in goal. They've went back and forth over the years. It seems like Vanney is more on the 4-3-3 side of things these days, so we'll work from that. Justin Morrow on the left, Omar Gonzalez, Chris Mavinga in the middle, Auro or Richie Larea as the right back. Bradley Osorio Delgado when Bradley's healthy. Slot Liam Frazier in there for now. Wingers, you have Pozuelo on one side because he's looked his best from a wide role. Josie Altidore up top. The other winger is a question. Does Erickson Gallardo, who came in late last season, didn't really show a whole lot. Does he take that? Tsubasa Endo, he actually did show a good bit. Nick DeLeon showed a good bit. Jacob Schaffelberg was a player who showed you some things in fits and starts. Or, and I think this is what most people are expecting, Toronto goes out and really spins on a designated player winger to play on the opposite side of Pozuelo. But for now, that's a question. When you compare those two teams today, not speculating, because we don't know, Toronto really hasn't even been linked to many players. Today, if those two teams are playing in a one-off for a championship, New York City, Toronto, where's your gut telling you to put the juice boxes?
NYC.
Why?
I look at, I see what I see with NYFC and the folks up top, and with that proposed threesome that you had up top. I think that the talent will adjust to Ronnie Dyla faster than Toronto trying to figure things out without having Michael Bradley in the middle. And I think that Toronto is going to have a slower start, even though I am anticipating Liam Frazier being put in the Michael Bradley position.
I'm fine with that, by the way. I like Liam Frazier. I think he's the long-term replacement for Michael Bradley in this team. Can he keep your head above water for a while, as he's going to get the most extended bit of playing time? He's got to earn it, because you can solve that issue in different ways. I would, and maybe this is just my gut feeling, I would like to keep the continuity of the Bradley, Osorio, Delgado triangle if possible.
Right.
And if you can just put Frazier into Bradley's role, if that works, that would be the best way to solve it. You could also play Osorio and Delgado behind Pozuelo and bring him back in as a number 10 if you wanted to do that. I'm not as big of a fan of that. I don't think Pozuelo's as effective as a number 10. I think he likes the space out wide. Agreed.
And for me, I will admit that my approach in saying NYCFC over Toronto is a little more is very simplistic, because I think that having three guys up top chasing goals and being a challenge for any defense, I think that right now I see more firepower, I see more goals, and I see more opportunity coming from NYCFC on offense than I do with Toronto.
Well, Josie Altidore is going to clap back at you for that one. By the way.
I know he is.
And if he's healthy, he could.
Yeah, and I just think that right now, I think that Toronto's going to grow into the season just because of not having Michael Bradley in the middle of things. Once again, I'm not clapping at Liam Frazier, even though I'm sure that he would clap back at me as well. So I have two Torontos.
He doesn't have the right to just yet. He's not a main guy at the moment. He can't clap back at anybody just yet. Josie will clap back at you. He's got that right.
Fine. Yeah, but once again, you mentioned what we've seen with Pozuelo, and in looking at Toronto FC last season, I thought he was more effective out wide. Is Vanny going to try to have him in the middle of things, where if you cut off the supply lines to Pozuelo?
No, I don't think that's the idea. I think the idea, and Toronto has looked their best with Bradley, Osorio, Delgado, and not trying to go diamond with Pozuelo in the middle, although you can, and against certain opponents that might be the way to play it. Just put him in a free roll there, and if he drifts, he drifts. But I think they're best in a 4-3-3 type of shape with Pozuelo on one side, and honestly, I would go Endo on the other. I like Tsubasa Endo. He's not a flashy player. He's not a guy who gets the headlines, but he is an incredibly hard worker and a little more technical than he gets credit for. That's going to be the change, and that's where this conversation could change. If Toronto goes out and gets the right designated player on the wing, then we're having a very different conversation. That's where this could flip. I'm with you. I think NYC today is the better team, and if I had to pick one in a one-off game, I'm going with NYC. Somewhat down to the just continuity. There's fewer questions, and also I think that attack of Morales, Mitrita, Eber, is as good as it gets. I think Tennerholm is as good of a right wing back as you're going to find in this league. Alexander Ring is one of the best central midfielders. You've got a lot of good things about that NYC team that are going to be difficult. Center back, that's a spot where they can be a little soft. Left side, Matarrita can get caught sometimes. They're not unbeatable, but I think they're a little bit stronger than Toronto. Let's take it to the team that finished third in the East last year, Atlanta United. So we're talking through lineups. We talked about it a lot on Stoppage Time yesterday, and we're talking about right now as it stands, not with potential additions today. You look at Atlanta, and it would more than likely be Brad Kazan in goal, 3 center backs, Fernando Meza, Miles Robinson, Franco Escobar. Left side is, I think, an open competition. Today, in a one-off, I think you'd probably lean to Edgar Castillo because of the experience.
Yeah. Right.
George Bello and Jake Mulroney are going to push for that playing time. On the right side is Brooks Lennon. Today, midfield, you could go in a variety of directions. We saw Heinemann and Remedi yesterday. You could see Lorenowitz with one of them. You could see Mo Adams with one of them. Let's go Heinemann and Remedi for these purposes. Then that means your front three is Barco, Pitti, Joseph. So Meza, Robinson, Escobar. Wingbacks, Castillo, Lennon. Central midfield, Heinemann, Remedi. Front three, Barco, Pitti, Joseph. I want people to go through the lineups we just talked about in the East. New York City, playing a similar shape, and if they stay that way, which I think they looked their best last year in the 3-4-3. We'll see if they stay that way. And Toronto in a 4-3-3. Compare them, and I want to know what people think who are listening out there, either live or on demand. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Comparing those groups, are you as freaked out about Atlanta when you compare those starting 11s? Not talking about depth just yet. We went through some depth options with the others, okay, for Atlanta. We talked about all of them on the left side. You've got Anton Walks, who's coming into the team, who can play anywhere on the back line. You've got the 4 options in a central midfield we talked about. You've got Mulroney, who can play a number of positions. You've got Luis Fernando, who's got to show that he can play at this level. You've got Adam John, who can play up top. You've got George Campbell, who's got to show that he can play at this level. Okay. Let's start with the starting 11s. Compare Atlanta, compare NYC, compare Toronto. And let us know what you think. I don't think it's nearly as, they can't compete. I just don't. I really, truly don't. And we'll see how it comes out. I think New York City right now might be the strongest of the 3 today.
Because of continuity?
Because of continuity and because of quality. I think their strengths are Matriza is one of the best players in the league. Eber is a top forward. Maxi Morales nearly set a league record for assists last year. The right side is outstanding. Alexander Ring in the middle is outstanding. Their frailties, their center backs, I think there's questions there. I think the left side can have some problems. And they're not a very big team. They don't have a lot of size. You might be able to get physical with them and give them some problems. Toronto, center back, Omar Gonzalez has to solve some of these problems that they've had. We'll see if he does. Right back, Alro or Richie Larea, good going forward. Can they sit back and defend if they have to? I don't know. I like Justin Morrow. He's getting a little bit older. And another one who's really good going forward. Can he defend if needed? It's a question. Without Michael Bradley, how do they look early on? And that's a tough one because it's not just a good player, it's a captain. And what do they do about the wing? Because I really like Tsubasa Endo. I think he's a good player in this league, but he would not start for Atlanta. He would not start for New York City. So there's some interesting comparisons when you compare the 3. I would put Atlanta right behind New York City when you compare them.
Yes.
That's where I'm at right now with looking at those teams. And then you look at the rest of the East, and this is where it's a different conversation about who can step up into that next group. Columbus and New England are the two that I keep zeroing in on right now. Columbus because of how they finished and because of what they've added. New England because of how they finished and maybe because of what they've added. I think Lucas Zelarayan is the best player between the two teams that have been added. And he's your replacement for Higuain. Can he be as effective for the Crew as Federico Higuain was? That's to be determined. And I think there are questions about how Darlington Nagbe fits into that group, because they had a very specific way of playing for a number of years, and I know it predated Caleb Porter, with Trapp and Artur together. You're going to play Nagbe in place of one of them, I would think, unless Porter's going to get really creative with his lineup. And who's going to sit, and what do you lose from that? Because both, Trapp is debatable about how much of a better defender he is than Nagbe, but he's more comfortable sitting deeper. Artur covers more ground, especially defensively, than Nagbe. Not as good on the ball. So, do you get the balance you need when you insert Darlington Nagbe into that team? We'll see. Who becomes the partner for Jonathan Mensah at center back? Is it Vito Vormgor? Is it Josh Williams, who's done it for a few years now? Does Axel Schuber get back to 2016 level form where he was best 11 quality? Does Abubakar Keita, I can't speak today.
Abubakar
Keita, thank you, John. Does he become the guy? Don't know. It's going to be a defensive question for them. Attack, Columbus, very good. Defensively, how does the holding midfield look? How does the center back pair look? You do get Milton Valenzuela back. You get Harrison Awful, who should be healthy the whole year. Your outside backs are very strong. And Eloy Room, I mean, we saw him for half the season last year. It was good. Is he an elite goalkeeper in this league? I don't know. I think he's close. But when you compare him to Brad Kazan, to Sean Johnson, to Quentin Westberg, is he better than any of those three yet? I think he's in the conversation, but I don't know if I'm going to put him ahead of any of those just yet.
Right.
What about the rest of the East? Who stands out to you as somebody who could make the top three a top four or more?
Well, in looking at the East as I was drawing it out on my legal pad, I had two columns, basically, of those who I thought were going to be north of the playoff bar and those who were either going to be fighting for that 6-7 or were going to be right out for the edge. NYC, Atlanta, Toronto, 1, 2, 3, pushed them over. I had Columbus at 4, New England at 5. And then the 6 and 7 was a grouping among Philadelphia, DC, Miami, Red Bulls, and Orlando. So that was, I have basically 5 for 2 right now when it comes to the bottom end of the playoffs in the East.
Okay. Let's go to Andrew Wiebe's column over at MLSsoccer.com.
Okay.
Wow. That's how you want to start it. Okay.
Well, I'm having a flashback to our pre-show, that's all.
No, tell us what you think. Man, I just mentioned a column to talk about, and you start laughing. What's so funny?
Number 2 on his list.
Okay, why is it so funny? The number 2 on his list is DC United, by the way.
Uh-huh, yeah. And I had several teams above DC United. I did not have them at number 2. Why
are you so mocking of this? I'm going to read you what he said, and I want you to tell me what's incorrect.
You read it, and let's see if the folks can figure out why I was not impressed with his number 2 selection. Go ahead and see if they can figure out what sentence.
Like LAFC, DC are winners in part because of what they did in 2019 to prepare for 2020 and the dissolution of Lucharu. Rest in peace. I agree. Rest in peace. Ola Kamara is a proven goal scorer in MLS, and all the service is his to attack in the 18-yard box. Yamil Assad has double-double goals and assist potential. What's wrong with that?
Nothing so far.
Okay. If those were the only moves Dave Casper made this offseason, this would have been a team with legitimate playoff ambitions. Anything wrong with that?
Nothing so far.
Now add Edison Flores and Julian Gressel to the mix. Those are big moves, and I think they'll prove to be the right moves to take this team to the top of the East. What do you have problems with that? Because you haven't had problems with anything yet.
Which of those last two sentences would I have had the most problem with?
I don't know. You tell me, because you're fired up without your Mountain Dew this morning.
Those are big moves, and I think they'll prove to be the right moves to take this team to the top of the East. The top of the East, question mark.
He didn't necessarily say they were going to win the East. He said the top of the East. How you define top can give you some wiggle room here, but okay.
True.
Let's say
NYC. So is DC United better than NYC?
No.
Is DC United better as we're structuring things, and we're talking, I guess, starting 11s, since that's the going rate here this morning. Is DC United better than Atlanta United?
I don't think so.
Is DC United better than Toronto FC?
I don't think so.
So right now they would be at number 4 minimum.
That's where they finished last year, or it's where they would have finished if they hadn't blown points on the final day. They finished 5th.
So you bring in Assad, Nyman, Flores, Kevin Predis, one of the two homegrowns, Nyman being the other, and Julian Gressel. While you have no longer Lucha Rue, 2 options declined, Leonardo Jara, Amara Quad, Jalen Robinson, Gordon Wild out of contract, Lucas Rodriguez.
Let's play the game that everybody's wanted to play about replacing.
Like
so you're replacing Wayne Rooney with Ola Kamara. You did that before last season was over. You're replacing Luciano Acosta with Edison Flores. Those are your big 2.
Mm-hmm.
So Flores and Kamara versus Acosta and Rooney.
Just because of what's coming in, I would have just natural questions, but I would still sit there and say, okay.
Why do you have natural questions?
Because of what we've seen versus what we haven't. We don't know how those...
Have you seen Edison Flores play?
Yes, but not in MLS. That, like I said, it's...
Okay, no, this is where I thought you were going to go. And this is this is something I want to have a little bit of a discussion about here.
Sure.
This has come up a lot about, well, I know this player is good, but I haven't seen them here yet. So I'm going to question it.
Questioning has to do strictly with transition. It's I'm allowing for a transition period for having an individual who has proven himself in whatever league he's in to be whatever talent he has. I'm still looking at transition periods and integration. I'm not talking about Ola Kamara. I'm talking about Edison.
So you're specifically talking about Edison Flores versus Luciano Acosta.
Yes.
Acosta was crap last year. Let's be real.
Yeah, because he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, but comparing it to last year, is Flores an upgrade? I would certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Because
but just in general,
Acosta was broken mentally with the whole thing.
No doubt. I'm just looking at when you bring in folks, the integration period, and that's what preseason's all about. I just want to see how long it's going to take for this group to hit the ground running. That's what I'm looking for. That's why I'm naturally wary about any kind of transaction that is as key as Edison Flores should be for DC United.
Is Alan Pulido more of a key transaction?
No.
No?
In the same,
you said he took Sporting Kansas City to a contender in the West. They're coming from the same league.
Hang on, counselor.
He's fired up without the Mountain Dew.
Damn right.
Go ahead.
Silencio, por favor.
Wow.
Look, I want to see.
John's getting a steel chair.
Oh my God!
Okay, what do you want to see?
I just want to see how long it's going to take. We always talk about little societies. We always talk about relationships. I want to see how long it's going to take. And like I said, I know that's what preseason's for. I know that's what preseason's for in Kansas City for Alan Pulido. I'm looking forward to seeing Alan Pulido and a healthy Sporting Kansas City. I want to see how long it's going to take for Edison Flores to get integrated into what Ben Olsen wants to do at DC United. I naturally have more questions about Julian Gressel and where he's going to fit into this mix, because we seem to have more folks and not enough places where...
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that point yet, but yeah, that's absolutely a question about DC. And that's my biggest one. It's the additions. Kamara, proven in this league. It's a good addition. Can he get back to where he was? Yes, there's a question, but you feel pretty good about Kamara. Edison Flores, I think, is an outstanding talent. I think it's a great pull. I think it's a good player coming in from Liga MX. I think he'll be better than Luciano Acosta was last year. Will he be 2018 level? That's tough. Acosta was really, really good. I think he has that potential for sure. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that. Yamil Assad didn't play last year. I have questions about what his form's going to look like. And my biggest two questions about DC is, are they going to be good enough defensively? And these additions, can they make the pieces fit to get the best out of all of them? Because I don't know what their lineup is. And that's what it comes back to for me. Kamara, good, you know where he's going to play. Flores, good, you're pretty sure you know where he's going to play as a 10. Yamil Assad has primarily played on the left wing. Does he move somewhere else? We'll find out. Paul Arriola has primarily played on the right wing. Does he have to move somewhere else? We'll find out. Where does Julian Gressel go? And that's the one that I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
I really don't know, and you don't spend that kind of money on a player if you aren't going to feature them. So, left back, Joseph Mora, okay. Center back, Steve Birnbaum, Frederick Briant, okay. I have questions about Briant. I think Donovan Pines will end up being that guy. That's a good center back grouping. Right back, I have no idea.
What we saw with Donovan Pines from Loudon when we saw him for Atlanta.
I liked him with DC when he was playing for DC. I like Pines. He's raw, but he's a talented player. I think he'll end up passing Briant. I don't know if that's this year. I don't know if they play the three of them, which they did at times last year. And this is the biggest question when it comes to DC. I don't know how they play. I don't know what the lineup's going to be. I don't know what the shape's going to be. I don't know, because no matter which way you go with the whiteboard on it, I don't know what they look like. Let's say they decide, okay, we're going to play Pines, Briant, Birnbaum. So you're going to play the three center backs. Okay, one, you don't have another center back, so you probably need to address that. But, okay, you want to do that because you think it can get people on the field. You could play Mora as a left wing back. You can play Gressel as a right wing back. We know that's where he's comfortable. Okay? That solves that problem. Then that's 5 guys, so you got 5 spots. Kamara up top, Flores behind him. You're comfortable with those. Okay, so that's 2. That means you got 3 spots. You've got your wing backs nailed down. You need your midfield or a second forward, unless you're going to play Flores up there. My guess is at that point you're playing Russell Canals and you're playing Paul Arriola and Yamil Assad centrally, and that doesn't sound good. Okay, no. You want to play Gressel in there centrally. All right, he can play in there. He's better than Arriola or Assad there. He's not as good as he is on the wing back. So then you play Arriola as a wing back. You're still asking Assad to probably play as a 10 in that situation, which he doesn't have a ton of experience doing. All right, I don't really like any of those setups if I'm trying to go 3 in the back. Let's go 2 in the back at center back. So we go Birnbaum and Briant. We go Mora at left back. Who's at right back? I have no idea. O'Neal Fisher coming back from injury. Odoy Atcham has only played a handful of games in his career. Do you solve that by playing Julian Gressel? Not if you ask him. He said he's not a right back. He made that clear. He said he'd play it, but he's not a right back. I don't think he's a right back either. I don't think he's incorrect in saying that at all. I think that'd be a recipe for disaster if you're DC. So let's say you don't do that. You play Paul Arriola at right back. He's played it more than Gressel. He is not as effective there as he is in other positions, but he's your best option. Okay. You play Mora, Birnbaum, Briant, Arriola across the back line. All right. That's your 4. Let's work the other way. Kamara up top. Flores as a number 10. Okay. Now on the wings, you can play Gressel on the right wing. You can play Assad on the left wing. That feels good. Holding midfield, Russell Canals, Junior Moreno. I think that's your best setup. Felipe could push into that holding midfield. That's fine. Ulises Segura could push into there or maybe push into the wing if Assad's a slow starter. Okay. But 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 or however you want to look at it, that feels like the best way. And then what questions do you have about DC? Brillant, I think he's slowing down a bit. Worry about pace with him. Right back is a disaster defensively no matter who you put there. Areola is a really hard worker. I love his work rate. He's not a natural defender, and he's going to want to get forward. You can overload that side if you're playing DC and take advantage of Areola and Gressel defensively in a lot of ways. The holding midfield's good. Canals is good. He hasn't been at the level that I think he was in 2017, 2018 enough. So if he's not there, it's Felipe, who's older and has bounced around a bit in the league. He gives you veteran experience. He gives you some nastiness, but, is he a top holding midfielder in this league? No. Junior Moreno's a good, solid number 8. I don't know if he's a spectacular one. Flores can be spectacular. Kamara can be a top goal scorer. Those things are possible. As a right winger, Gressel's not as effective there as he is as a wing back, but I don't think you can play a system with wing backs and make it work. So you're going to play him on the wing, and you're going to ask him to give you the production that he's given Atlanta. I don't think he does. I don't think he does that from that position as well. So, and Yamil Assad, who knows? This is a guy who barely played.
How many games?
In 2019.
I was going to say, how many games has he played professionally in top league in the last 2 years?
No, in the last 2 years, he played in 2018 a lot in DC. It's the last year. Let's not exaggerate it too much for poor Yamil. It's 2018. He was good in DC. 2019, he was on a couple 18s for Velez, and I think he might have gotten on the field a little bit, and then that was it. And he signed late, and I think he practiced some last season in DC, and that's it. So how does that affect him? Is he fresh and hits the ground running because he's fired up? Could be. Is he rusty? Could be. So there's a lot of questions about DC. On paper, adding Ola Kamara last season, adding Yamil Assad late last season, adding Edison Flores, adding Julian Gressel, those are good additions. On paper, those are good additions. That's 4. That doesn't, to me, say they're winning the offseason. I agree with you that I feel like this is a big reach. Have they had a good offseason? Yeah. I think so. I think Flores is going to be really good. And he's the one who makes or breaks this to me. But have they had a better offseason than LAFC adding Francisco Janela, adding Jose Cifuentes? If you're just comparing the 4 players to 2 players, you might be able to make that argument. But has it made DC demonstrably better than those players could make LAFC? I don't think so.
Because I'm not running around with my hair on fire, sitting there going, "Oh my God, DC!" Comparing those two, I'm not sitting there going, "Oh my God, DC is going to be absolutely amazing." No.
Yeah, I just don't know how they fit them, and that's what it keeps coming back to me. It's like on paper, those additions are good. Those are good cards to put in the book, but can you make them all fit into something coherent? You can, but I don't think you get the best out of everybody in the ways you have to do it. I think you're asking Areola to play right back. You're asking Gressel to play on the right wing. You are frail defensively on that side, and teams are going to really target it. We'll get into more of this in hour number 2. We'll get into your questions and tweets and your Thursday thoughts. Tweet at us at SoccerDownHere. We'll be right back.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
So, yeah, I was trying to come back from a break, and John on his ECW rage had hit me with a steel chair and put me through a table, so I had to plug the mic back in. My bad. You done with your caffeine rage? Or do you still want to talk about DC United, John?
No, I think I'm done with DC United. And
man, haven't seen you get angry like that about something that's been written about a team who added 4 good players. They did.
Taking it as it is written, I'm a very literal person. When that last sentence says, I think they'll prove to be the right moves to take this team to the top of the East.
He did put Columbus as the team that's had the best offseason.
So then is Columbus going to be ahead of DC at the top of the East?
John, now you're arguing things that are not being written. He didn't say
that's not an evidence. I'm aware.
He didn't say this was a power ranking. He said who's had the best offseason. I don't think DC
and the Galaxy at 5 because of signing Chicharito. The Galaxy's at 5.
Do you have a problem with that one?
I had it higher.
Okay, so I was about to say, I was like, wait a minute. Not just Chicharito. They added Alexander Katai.
This is what I'm saying.
Insua. So, okay. So you're saying that adding Chicharito, Katai, Insua, Klesgen is better than Kamara, Assad, Flores, Gressel?
For the moment, yeah.
Okay. It could be. It very well could be. I think that conversation comes down to goals scored by the forwards, Chicharito and Kamara. I don't think Klesgen really gives you very much. Insua, Does he make them that much better defensively? I don't know. Katai is an interesting one. I like Katai as a player a lot. I don't know if he's exactly what the Galaxy need out of a winger with a forward like Chicharito. And that's the question I have. I think Pavone will create a ton of chances. I think Sebastian Lletget can create a ton of chances. Katai is great at finishing chances. Is he going to be one to create and feed Chicharito? That's the thing I want to see play out. That's my question mark about LA. Kansas City's number 4. Polito is the big addition. Outside of that, they brought Kyrie Shelton back. They brought Roberto Punchek in. They now have added as a number 10 Gadi Kinda, and he's an unknown. I really don't know what he brings to the mix. Out of who's had the best offseason, DC being on the list is not crazy at all.
No.
I think that's an overreaction.
But not
being
number 2.
Second, it feels like a bit of a stretch. In terms of the list, I don't get too riled up. In terms of these moves taking DC to the top of the East, I completely disagree.
Yeah,
and those are two different things. Those are two very different things. In terms of a good offseason, yeah, DC's had a really good one. Do these moves make them one of the best teams in the East? I don't think they're better than Atlanta, Toronto, NYC. I don't think they're better than Columbus or New England either. And that would mean they're falling back from where they finished last year. So, I don't know. I think they're good on paper, but we'll see how it actually works out. People have thoughts. Why don't we get to their thoughts?
People have been thinking since yesterday, dude.
Good. That's good. We like for when people think.
Patrick Delaney. I remember getting into music as a kid and someone saying to me, your new favorite band is out there. You just have to find it. And this thought is helping me this offseason. The team will look different, but our new favorite players are out there. # Thursday Thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a little different in that your favorite band just might go away for a while and decide not to put out an album, but they'll be back. This is, a little different. But yes, and this is something I talked about it on Stoppage Time, and I want to make something clear because I've seen, it hasn't been directed at me, but I've seen pushback, and I don't know all of the conversations that are out there in the Atlanta United Twitter sphere. People having an emotional reaction and being sad and upset and wish that players stayed, that they're emotionally attached to, they're fans of, there's nothing at all wrong with that. Anybody saying that there is wrong, and I haven't, and nobody on this show has, and nobody in our 92.9 shows has. I think where I draw the line is something that I've seen a lot more of than I expected, and it's where it turns into personal attacks, saying that people don't know what they're doing when these moves happen, and making pictures, and saying all kinds of things like, now because players that you like are not here, that people are incompetent, or people don't know what they're doing, or these are stupid moves and I don't like the club as much and I don't trust the club. Those kinds of things are like, whoa, wait a minute. That's not having an emotional reaction about your player being gone. That's taking it a step. And that's a different conversation. And if you feel that way, that's fine. I disagree with that. I don't disagree with people being sad because they love Tito Villalba, or they love Julian Gressel, or they love Leandro Gonzalez-Pirez, or any of the other players that have left the team. That's fine. That's sports. It's when it goes into takes beyond that, or personal attacks, or things like that are just, it's been really surprising to see as much of that. That's where I am with the whole thing. But people being sad, they can't argue with that. There's nothing to argue with about that. So I think this tweet, though, you're going to see new players because, yes, the team has signed players. Believe it or not, and some people would try to tell you otherwise, they have actually added players. And, yes, they actually have enough to field a team. Imagine that. And there's some of these players that you're really going to enjoy. So I know there's sadness about players that you have watched and really enjoyed watching, there's going to be new players, and there could be some that you really enjoy watching. So we will see it all play out, and it's going to be fun to watch this develop. This is a season with more questions in that regard than maybe any year the team's ever had. Honestly, the only one that's close is going into 2018, where you lost 3 starters from 2017 going into 2018, and then you had Greg Garza miss a lot of 2018 due to injury. So that was the closest thing to this, and I think you've seen more change this year.
Ricky Ricardo has been very busy this morning. One of his first thoughts, since most of the MLS kits seemed to have leaked, which ones are your best and worst looking? I have Atlanta, Red Bulls, Galaxy, and Toronto as a really solid top 4, and have Cincy's primary, Seattle, San Jose, and Columbus as all pretty bad. By the way, Orlando's kit looks like someone's purple pen burst inside of a shirt pocket.
Yeah, the Orlando one I'm not sure about. The Columbus one I did not like. The San Jose one I didn't really like. The Cincinnati one I don't like at all. The Galaxy and Red Bulls ones are okay. They didn't really capture me too much. You liked Sporting a lot.
Yeah.
I like Portland. I think that's a good one. I like Dallas. I like DC. I'm trying to think. The Minnesota one's the best one.
Yes.
The Minnesota one where they bring the wing back from the old NASL kits a few years ago. That's the best one. I think that's the winner of the batch.
K-Roll along those same lines said Minnesota, Portland, Red Bulls, and Atlanta, but why didn't Adidas outline the very subtle textured 5 stripes with gold pinstripes? Still subtle, but it'd look good.
That would have looked really good. Yeah, it would have been a nice addition. I would have been down for that.
And Thomas Gowin, for our high school game of the week, is recommending places for us to stop and eat on our way either to or from said matches.
Okay,
so,
are you going to share those? I mean...
He says, when you're in Roswell for Game of the Week, consider grabbing dinner at the Mr. Taco or the Freakin' Incan, Peruvian street food like lomo saltado.
I have not been to the Freakin' Incan, but I have heard really good things. I do like some Peruvian street food. I've not heard of Mr. Taco. I'm intrigued by Mr. Taco because I generally like any Mr. that is named Taco.
Yes. Lewis Martin for hashtag Thursday Thoughts. Fandom for MLS soccer clubs is like being a college football fan. We know that for the most part, we'll only have players for 3 or 4 years. We love them while they're here, wish them the best in the next stop, use their success to recruit more players.
Kind of. I mean, it's that with a combination. Like, you will see guys who spend a long stretch in a place. Nick Armando, Kyle Beckerman, Chad Marshall split his career really between 2 clubs. Like, you will see it. It's not as common, but you will see it. So it's not everybody is gone after 2, 3, 4 years, but yeah, it's gonna happen. It's the nature of the game, really, because it's something a lot of managers have talked about, and this is where it kind of starts for me because it's the domino effect. Managers usually go through a cycle of 3 to 4 years. You get past that, if you're going to stay, you've got to bring in a new group of players. Or if you're going to go, you need to go, and then you bring in a new manager, and then that new manager might bring in a new group of players. It's kind of typical. I mean, Guardiola's talked about it. Others have talked about it. I think the bigger picture in this regard is you're not going to see the Sir Alex Fergusons, the Arsene Wengers. I don't think you're going to see the Peter Vermes level of continuity all that often going forward. Ben Olsen has been in DC for a long time. I don't think you're going to see as much of that. And when you see managers change, you're going to see players change. That's just going to happen. But you're also going to see players change on their own because they want a new challenge. In MLS, it's not the best league in the world, so there's an option for players to move up a level. There are players who are in MLS who get older and need to step back a level. There's levels within MLS. So you're going to see players grow and evolve. You're going to see players get older and decline, and you're going to see moves happen because of all of that. So it's just the nature of the game as a whole. You're going to see movement every couple of years for players. That's fairly typical. You'll get the outliers, but yeah, it's just going to happen that way.
Marshall Voigt, this offseason transfer window feels like the time your best friend gets upset with you for breaking up with your ex, even though she was the one who broke up with you. Hashtag Thursday Thought.
That's pretty good, because that's the thing that a lot of people have left out of. And this is where you get into the step beyond being sad that players are not in Atlanta anymore. This is where you get to saying that people don't know what they're doing because those players aren't here. Nagbe asked for a trade. You made a contract offer to him. He didn't want to take it. He asked for the trade. Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, according to Carlos Bocanegra, his agent said if there's an opportunity where he can make more money, he would be interested in hearing it. You would assume that that's what happened here. Julian Gressel, we know the situation. He wanted a long-term contract. Atlanta wanted to wait till the CBA was done. Gressel requested a trade. He didn't want to wait any longer. He got the money, I'm assuming. The whole thing, I think it's maybe being overplayed a little bit about he hasn't signed a new deal and if it's a handshake or whatever. I don't know. I think that's overplayed because he's not going to accept the trade because he wants a long-term deal if he's not going to be guaranteed a long-term deal. I think a lot of it could have to do with MLS rules and paperwork. And we'll see long-term about that whole conversation about TAM and re-signing players with it and can you do it. We'll see how this one actually gets handled paperwork-wise because I don't know. I think that's not a non-issue. But Gressel asked for the trade. That's the important thing here. And in this case, with Tito Villalba, he wanted more playing time. He wanted to guarantee him more playing time. There's not a guarantee of that, especially if Atlanta's going to play more out of a 3 center back setup that includes wing backs. There's just not as much room. If you were playing strictly out of a 4-3-3, I think Villalba's in that conversation and would likely be the starter on the right wing. Not definite there either, but I think that would be his most likely position. I don't think Atlanta's going to play that shape 90% of the time, so you can't guarantee the playing time. And again, he needs the playing time. He wants to break into Paraguay's national team. So all these players had things they wanted. Nagbe wanted to be closer to home. Gonzalez-Perez wanted to make more money. Gressel wanted to make more money and get a new deal. Villalba wanted more playing time. Atlanta United did what the players wanted in those situations, and that's where you're at. So you try to make the best of those situations, and I think the club has handled it the best they can. And I think some of the judging of the offseason is incomplete because the offseason's not done, and you can still add players all the way into May. So I don't think things are done just yet.
Shiva says, I'm so disappointed. We did not make it to Andrew Wiebe's top 5 off-season moves, and an emoji that does not have an identifier. And DC United did with 4 shrugged shoulders emoji.
So you and Shiva have been trading notes, huh?
So disappointing.
Man. Feisty.
Damn caffeine.
Yeah,
Emery
seriously.
Russell. My Thursday thoughts are that Atlanta's highlight video from yesterday had some spicy passing and countering from the team as a whole. Now I know it's just preseason, but seeing that chemistry makes me extremely excited to see them play real matches in just a few weeks.
Well, you can watch them play a not quite real match on Saturday, 5 o'clock.
Saturday.
atlutd.com/live. It will be fun. We can't quite guarantee it, but we will try.
Four-card Ahmed this morning. Is the Brazilian rumor trustworthy, agent/fan game, or just another pipe dream? He looks really nice in the highlight videos I've seen. Hashtag Thursday Thoughts.
Yeah, we talked about it on stoppage time. We didn't get into it here on the show yesterday because those rumors were just hitting in Brazil while we were on with Felipe Cardenas. Mateo Soseto is the midfielder that has been linked to Atlanta United from Brazil. They're coming from credible sources, and they sound like they're pretty advanced in terms of conversations. He's a player who is young, 23, but has a good bit of experience, over 100 matches for Paranaense in his career there. He played over 60 matches in 2017. Now, Brazilian league setup is a little strange. They play a state league, they have a national league, and they have cup competition, and then you have CONMEBOL. So you're playing all year round in different competitions. He played 60 times in 2017, 41 as a starter, played in the Libertadores. He led the team in assists. Moved over to the right side when the team shifted to 3 center backs under new manager Fernando Diniz in 2018. Played 28 times, started 20. Around that time, there was reported interest from Inter in Italy. Most recently, and going back to December, there was interest from Grêmio in Brazil. 113 games with Atlético Paranaense. Some of the scouting reports that I've read, and I could echo this from what I've seen of him so far, good passing, can shoot from distance, good long-range shot. I really like his first touch and just his quickness with the ball as a whole. And he's really strong on set pieces. From taking corners, from taking free kicks. So he's played in both preseason matches that Paranaense has played recently against Boca Juniors, against Racing from Argentina. What the vibe has been, you've got some Paranaense fans who have pointed to a mistake he made, I think it was a Libertadores game, and cost the team a goal. It's like, we don't want him here anymore. He made this mistake. Well, welcome to Brazilian soccer. People kind of go a little crazy about every single little tiny thing. Others have said, look, that's ridiculous, but he is a player who, for coaching reasons, for tactical reasons, other players who have come into those positions, he's kind of on the outside looking in, and he needs that playing time, and a change of scenery could do him really good. This has been a type of player that Atlanta United's done really well with over the years. You know, you look at Carlos Carmona at Atalanta, who wasn't getting that playing time, comes to Atlanta, has a great 2017. Joseph Martinez at Torino, played in a different position, comes here, unlocks everything. You know, Tito Villalba was a prime example of this. He was in this kind of situation at San Lorenzo. Broke through, was a consistent player in their Libertadores win. Then managerial changes, he fell out of favor, he was pushed to the side, and he needed that change of scenery. That's what it feels like for Mateo Soseto. I like the addition if it happens. He's a different player than Villasanti. I know a lot of people, and this is the craziness about rumors. Like, I've already seen people getting mad because, they failed to get Villasanti. It was rumors. It's all rumors. You can't get mad about something that's not real. So, I don't know. They're different when you compare the two players because Soseto is more of an attack-minded player who can play as a box-to-box. Villasanti, I think, was naturally more of a defensive midfielder who could play as a box-to-box. So their personality on the field is coming from the opposite spectrum, but both of them can play in that kind of 6'8" role. So now you're going to have an option, if he comes in, to have Soseto, Remedi, who I think is more 6'8", more defensively minded, but and he can get forward when he needs to. Ask Orlando about it in the Open Cup semifinals. Heinemann, who I think is somewhat similar to Soseto in that he might be a little more offensively minded. Lorenowitz and Adams, who are more defensively minded. So you've got a lot of balance and a lot of option to mix and match in the central midfield. So if Joseto's the guy, and according to Brazilian reports, it's pretty far along, I think he fits what Atlanta can use in the central midfield, absolutely. He's not exactly Darlington Nagbe, because I don't think there's many players like that. But there's things that he gives you that is similar to Nagbe, that first touch, that passing, that quickness on the ball. He's better at scoring and creating than Nagbe is. I think he's more comfortable as you get to the final third. Nagbe would deliver the ball into the final third. Soseto appears to be a player that can make some things happen in the final third. I think he'd have more assists, more goals.
Nathan Pugh this morning with a couple of quotes. But it's only a preseason friendly. Show me when it matters. The guys he brought in are inferior. Sign at MBS says, passion over logic. That seems to be quite infectious in the fan base. What more do people want? Hashtag Thursday Thoughts.
It is a preseason friendly yesterday, so it's I don't know where the overreactions are allowed and they aren't. Can you get excited about a preseason friendly? Can you get angry about moves that have been rumored to happen and don't happen, or moves that happen or moves that don't happen? I don't know. Reaction's reaction. It's fun. It's good times. But yes, sometimes passion trumps logic. That's for sure, and we see that quite often in the social media world.
I need some help with this next one.
Okay.
Michael Valverde, one of his first ones for the morning, he says 185, go.
What?
That's basically all it says. It says 185, go at Soccer Down Here.
I don't know.
That's why I needed your help.
I have no idea. Sorry, Michael.
Okay. Tafka has a lot of thoughts.
It's not
I'll save
I-85 go, is it?
I don't know. It says 1. It's a 1.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. So if it was an I-85, I don't know if I'd have any better clue as to what he was hunting for.
Well, maybe he was driving.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I'm going to save Tafka's for the flip side of the Doug Robertson segment coming up, because it's a lot of Thursday thoughts.
Okay. Is Tafka still worried? Is he still freaking out?
No, he has a calm summary of yesterday, and that is literally how he titled it.
Okay. Man,
so the calm summary will go
I just don't want him to be
the flip side of the Doug Robertson segment that's coming up.
Okay.
Thomas Gawin, and since I know we're right up against the break, starting to be several reports that Estudiantes center mid Ivan Gomez will be headed to Miami on loan with an option to buy. Some in Atlanta had hoped he might have been a target for United when the original Gomez to MLS reports came out.
Again, there was never a report linking him to Atlanta. So it was one thing for people to get upset that Villasanti's not coming, because at least there were reports, and I don't even think that's necessarily finalized. This guy was never linked to Atlanta. He was just linked to unnamed MLS teams.
Unnamed MLS team.
So, man, relax with the rumor stuff, people. Like
RELA.
No, that guy lost. We're not talking about him wearing his silly mustache and all denim. No. Aaron Rodgers doesn't get that drop on the show anymore. It's a rumor. And it wasn't even a rumor connected to Atlanta. People ran with it, and if people led others to believe that was a possibility, then they're being irresponsible. And that's something that, look, I can tell y'all this about the way I approach this stuff. I think about those things maybe too much sometimes. And I try to be very clear when there's a rumor, if it's credible, and if there's a rumor that has nothing to do with Atlanta United, I don't want to lead people down directions that are not there. And sometimes that happens, and people do that, and I think it's irresponsible, and I think it's something that people have to be very careful about in this type of role. And that's whether you are writing, if you are speaking, if you are podcasting, wherever you are, like, people pay attention to what you say. So I don't know where that link to Atlanta came from. I mean, I have no idea. He was just a player who was rumored to be coming to MLS. That was it. There was never a connection to Atlanta outside of he played a position that Atlanta has talked about adding. And that's it. And honestly, he's more of the defensive midfielder, and Atlanta's been pretty specific in talking about an 8. So even that's a stretch. I don't know. But no, you can't get upset about a rumor that you can't get upset about a rumor. You can't get upset about a rumor that never linked the player specifically to Atlanta. It's even worse than being upset and saying that things failed about Villasanti, because that never got past rumor stage either. Who knows? It's crazy.
No, we have
what
a clarification.
It's all about. What's that?
We have clarification on We have a clarification on the 185.
Okay.
Christine Sinclair.
Oh, well, there you go. Yes. New women's goal-scoring hero, Christine Sinclair.
And new.
Yes.
I feel like
yes. This is true. It was in 2 goals in an 11-0 win over St. Kitts and Nevis at the CONCACAF Olympic qualifying. Tougher game with Mexico. They got past Jamaica 1-0. That was a tight one. Canada won big. We'll see how Canada handles Jamaica and Mexico in the next 2. We'll talk about some of that. We'll talk about other Thursday thoughts after we take a quick break and get Doug Robertson on the line live from Florida right after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. First time in 2020, Doug Robertson joins us from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. What's up, Doug?
Not a thing. How are y'all?
Doing good. I think your tweet last night has piqued John's interest, and he has a question for you.
So what's the deal with this boat, man?
I don't know. I walked down the street to this little Airbnb thing I have. Includes a boat slip. Not that I have a boat, but I just wanted to walk down and look at the dock. And so I'm looking at the houseboat next to me, and then like at the boat slip further down, there's a boat that's halfway underwater, just sitting there. No one seemed to care. I don't know how long it's been like that. I assume it's just kind of touched bottom, and that's why it's not continuing to sink. But there it is.
So could Chief Brody be asked for comment about this situation? Do we have any background on this?
No. Chief Brody is a little afraid of the water, so he didn't want to go near it.
What is this reference?
Jaws.
Roy Scheider.
Yes, okay. Sorry, I apologize. Okay, well, I know that story has got you going, Doug, but I think there's been some other things you've been pretty busy with. You've been writing a ton over at the AJC. Let's start with the game yesterday, since you saw it. Nobody else did. 4-0 in the first half. How did Atlanta United look against Philadelphia?
Okay, first, everything has to be put into the context of Philadelphia just started its preseason. And a lot of the guys were visibly just not ready, physically not ready. You could see quite a few spare tires out there. Having said that, a few players were extremely impressive. I thought Brooks Lennon and Jake Mulroney looked good going up the wings. But, of course, that's when the conditioning is really going to come into effect because Philadelphia's fullbacks, which were all second-string fullbacks, couldn't keep up with them. I thought Hyman played well in that Nagby role. Pitti, Barco, Joseph combined well. Meza looked good as the center back. But I'm curious playing the Swedish side on Saturday if it's going to be a little more competitive than the Philadelphia game was.
Coming into camp, was there a list of folks that you really had your eye on? It's like, I really want to see this guy. I want to see this guy. I want to see this guy when it comes to how everything was going to integrate into year 2 of Frank DeBoer. And I mean, it could be guys from last year's roster, but I mean, who did you have in your spot shadow as guys that you really wanted to keep an eye on heading into camp?
Well, the new faces, definitely. Losing Gressel, losing Miram, losing Nagbe. I wanted to see how the guys at Atlanta United, I think, are counting on are going to perform. I'm higher on Lennon and Mulroney than I think others might be, only because speed can make up for a lot of things, and those guys are plenty fast. Lennon played mostly as a fullback at Real Salt Lake instead of a wingback, and that's not really his position, and they're two very different things, especially when you're an attack-minded player. So I wanted to see him yesterday. Mulroney, this was his first action. We've only seen videos of him at Hearts, and it seemed like most of the Hearts supporters were ready for him to be out of there. But, of course, that team is not doing well in the Premiership, so I think they're probably ready for any player to be out of there. But he looked good yesterday, so I wanted to see him. And, the Nagbe thing, Frank has been honest about his desire to find some sort of a replacement for Nagbe, and it seems like Hyman, for now, might be that guy. So I was looking forward to seeing how he played yesterday. And I wrote earlier this week, having Barco is almost like a new player this season because he barely got to play last year for various reasons, only 15 appearances in the league, less than 50%. And I think Pitti is going to be like having a new player because last year was a huge adjustment for him, and it was not good, but, he admitted in his preseason interview that he felt pressure at the beginning of last year, which is natural. And I think his play kind of reflected that. And as he got used to everything, he started to play a lot better and he looked more comfortable. So that's what I wanted to see yesterday, and he didn't disappoint.
So let's get into some of the new faces that you've had a chance to talk to. What has stood out to you about guys like Mulroney and your most recent piece you posted this morning and Adam John? What stood out to you about some of the new faces in the group?
Mulroney is an easygoing guy. I mean, just as relaxed as they come. I can't wait for you to talk to him because he's got a really interesting voice. It's an Irish. He's from Ireland, so he has an Irish accent. It's a very soft, kind of high-pitched voice. And so when he talks to you, like instead of saying like we say his kind of comes across as heem, like that.
Okay.
Which was interesting. And then he was on the field yesterday. I was sitting beside someone as we were watching the game. We're like on the second row of the bleachers, this kind of covered area. And you could hear him saying, P.E.T., P.E.T., when he wanted the ball. But it was so high-pitched, I have no idea if the folks in the middle of the field could hear him screaming for the ball. But we could because we were closer to him. But he's pretty fast. He seems like a really nice guy. He seemed, as I wrote, really earnest about wanting to experience Major League Soccer and Atlanta United and see what there is to offer. Adam, I thought, was a really good guy. I asked him point blank if, knowing you're not going to get a lot of playing time because there's an alpha striker, as I wrote today, and Joseph Martinez, if that factored into your thinking. And he said it did, but I'm a competitor and I want to try to go against the best, so that's why I wanted to come here. I'm really going to be curious how Frank uses Adam. I don't ever think you're going to see him start alongside Joseph in a league game, but I think you could see him come in, if Atlanta United's trailing by a goal in the final 15 minutes to try to make something happen off a set piece or a cross or something like that, because he is 6'3", and he says he's good in the air. So,
what about at the back? Are you accepting the Mesa challenge about making sure that you get to ask him a question in Spanish in the next 6 months in a press scrum?
I'm trying. I've got 4 kids that are taking Spanish in school right now, so I hear them talking. It's not that I don't want to. It's just a matter of time. I guess maybe I should try to do all the time I have to spend in the car driving back and forth. I should probably put that to better use and start taking more Spanish lessons. I've tried a few times, kind of stopped and then started. His life interrupted. But I suppose I should try again. And he,
and then
I thought he played well
when you
yesterday.
have
He was solid.
yeah,
He was solid. You know, Carlos described him as kind of a Michael Parkhurst-like type player. He won an aerial duel yesterday, and I don't know how many of those Parkhurst won in his years with Atlanta United. But he looked good. He was very comfortable with the ball at his feet. That was evident.
and the fact that he's embracing the Atlanta United dynamic, you know, he loves being here, is embracing the whole idea of learning English in the first 6 months, being one of those quarterbacks at the back, and you got to see that firsthand yesterday.
Yeah, we're actually kind of flipping it around. Another interesting thing yesterday is Brad Guzan speaks Spanish very, very well. He was, throughout the game, giving instructions in Spanish to Meza, to Escobar, to those guys. It was the person I was sitting next to and I were a little bit stunned at how well he was speaking Spanish and relaying instructions and stuff like that.
Brad might have taken the Meza challenge.
I know that he can speak it. I was stunned at how well he speaks it.
Nice. Something that jumped out to me, Arch Bell wrote a piece for Marco, interview with Meza, and Meza talked about how, you know, well received he's been, and just the camaraderie in the group. And, you know, we see the pictures on Instagram. I think the guys went bowling last night. How has it looked for you from the outside at just how the group has come together with those new faces? How does the camaraderie appear?
It appears fine. I mean, you know, we don't get to spend any time with them when they're doing their team-related activities. But Carlos has made no secret of he wants good guys in the locker room. He wants guys who are going to interact with other guys and not cause divisions. And, you know, with the one interview we've had with Meza, he was as nice a guy as you could see or as you could meet. And Mulroney the same way. Adam yesterday was fantastic among the new faces. You kind of know what you got with the other guys. But I think Jeff and Brad will probably try to keep everybody focused on the same goal. They're both, you know, intense professionals. And we'll just have to see and see what about any new faces that come in.
And what about some of the other guys, you know, like a Mo Adams who's coming back for a full second season, and the guys that we might have had limited sample sizes from last year, whether it was, you know, cups of coffee in Open Cup play or things like that. What about some of the second level guys that fans may not necessarily be looking at when it comes to starting 11s, but like 11 through 18s with Mo Adams and the like?
Well, Mo Adams got his cup of Mountain Dew yesterday in the game. He came as a defensive midfielder. He came in the Hyman role. They did mass substitution, so I'm trying to remember who came in for what. But he came in the Hyman role, I think, as much as it was with a 4-0 lead. You know, he looked good. He hit a really solid pass from the center of the pitch to George Bello, who was kind of going down the left. It was hit. Bello didn't have to stop for it, but he was able to chest it and then go forward again. That was a really nice pass. It was like 20 yards, 25 yards, something like that. But he looked good. Castillo came in on the right. You know, by the time they had the 4-0 lead, they weren't really attacking much anymore. So the guys didn't really get to show what they have to offer, so to speak. Goodrum, the draft pick, came in. Another academy player came in. Lawrence White came in for Miles Robinson. But at that point, it's really hard to say if they were playing well or not because the game was already out of hand.
So let's go back to the article you wrote that got everybody going this week about Tito Villalba's departure. How did that come together on your end? There'd been some reporting previously just about the potential of a move, but you were the first to have that he had left camp and was appeared to be on the way out.
Well, I was waiting around on another interview and talking to someone who's I can't name, and noticed that I didn't see Villalba amongst the other players, and so I asked this person, and it was confirmed that Viaba wasn't with the team. So then I spoke to another person and then another person, and kind of the details started coming out that he's on the verge of being sold. I don't think the deal is complete yet. I don't know why. Paperwork, I guess it takes a while to get things done. But the deal is not complete yet. It may be announced as early as today. And that's how it came about. It's, it's not really a surprise. I've always heard that Viaba is a guy that if he's not playing, he gets a bit inside his own head, so to speak. And it really affects him a lot. And so last season had to have been extremely difficult on him with the injuries and just really not having a position in the 3-5-2 or 3-4-2-1. And it became obvious again, based upon the formations that Atlanta United has used so far, that he likely wasn't going to have a starting spot with the team. And so it's not a surprise that he wanted to leave.
The one guy that we haven't talked about yet is Frank DeBoer. What's it been like being around Frank in year 2 of the DeBoer administration as he's getting his ideas out there for a full training camp and full everybody getting together as you're heading toward a season? What's it been like to see FDB in year 2?
Yeah, I want to try to straighten something out about Frank. I assume y'all may have talked about this also. A lot of people on Twitter keep blaming Frank for Julian being gone and Darlington being gone and LGP being gone and Viaba being gone. And that's just not how this works. Julian wanted more money. That's not up to Frank. Tito wanted more playing time. He wanted, I think, probably a guarantee of playing time. That can't be given to anybody. The front office makes these moves. I think Frank has a lot more input as to who is coming in. He could tell them what they want, and they go out and try to find it and bring it in. But as far as players leaving, I'm sure that there's some discussion. But in the end, it's the front office decision. It is not Frank's decision. He may say, I'm not happy with this player, but the front office is the one that has to pull the final strings. So you can be unhappy with Frank for other reasons, but he's not running off players. That's just flat wrong. And as a person who tries to deal in facts, that has bothered me a little bit. I'll share a quick story about Frank with you. So I was talking to him later after the Viaba stuff on what day? Tuesday. At my flight, they got in there early, and so I was able to get in early. And I had asked him, what are you looking for? What is your focus in the scrimmage on Wednesday? And he said, well, topics are defense, which is a focus, offense, which he kind of brushed off, and set pieces. So then I wrote, defense and set pieces are the focus. That was in the headline. So after the game yesterday, Frank comes up to me and says, I didn't talk about set pieces. That was not a focus. I don't know why I would have talked about set pieces. And I said, okay. And so I apologized. But then I went back and listened to the tape. And like at a minute 27, he said a focus would be set pieces. But what was going on is Frank was just listing the 3 things that you typically look for in a game. But the way it was said was like he had made it a focus. So that was just a communication thing between Frank and I.
Right.
If that makes sense to y'all.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was cool with it. He wasn't upset, but I worked it out through one of the communications people with Atlanta United. And so now we can kind of get on the same page as to, how you communicate and how I'm understanding what you're saying. So anyway, Frank is fine. He was really pleased with how they played yesterday. I kind of found it interesting that he said the offense, I'm just going to kind of leave it up to them and their own instincts, and they scored 4 goals. He, as you would think, was really focused on the defense, particularly pressing in blocks, pressing at the right time, which, was a problem last year because sometimes it would just blow up in Atlanta United's face, particularly against Herediano in that first Champions League game. And that can't happen again this year.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I'm not really surprised that he's focusing from the back to the front. It's typical with a lot of managers who think in this way. And when you look through the the threads of the Dutch system and the crossover to Barcelona and how everything goes. Guardiola said the same thing about he structures the defense, the pressing, that side of it. He does that so the attackers can do what they want to do and express themselves in the way that they want to express themselves. They can't do that if you don't have that foundation. It's interesting that's where things are at this stage with early on in the season in year 2. That seems about right. That seems where Frank would be with his defensive background, but also his history in the game as a player and a manager.
Well, if you pitch a shutout, you still have a chance to win.
Absolutely.
But if you're giving up goals, then you don't have your chance. I don't know what the percentages are, but go down greatly, no matter how good your goal scorers are. So it makes sense to me, and I assume that that's what they're going to continue to work on, including Saturday against Elfsborg, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and if I'm not, it's
pretty
no
good.
Disrespect to the
Yeah,
to the
you're
Swedish
good.
club.
Elfsborg.
There's actually a reporter from there who is supposed to be here on Saturday, which I found fascinating. I don't know, how they got it to go from Sweden to Florida when it's perfect weather outside, but that's cool for them.
Yeah, they do an extended preseason. They played a Swedish team before they came down to Florida, and then they played the U.S. national team in a closed-door friendly, I think about a week ago, and they play Nashville today. So pretty good pitching by whatever publication this reporter's coming from to get that trip to Florida. Probably weather a little bit better.
Yeah, there are a ton of MLS teams here. Just in the little hotel that's outside IMG, Red Bulls were walking in the other day. Nashville. At first, I thought it was Columbus because from a distance, the colors and the badge are, kind of similar. And I don't mean that as an insult to either club. And then Atlanta United, and then Philadelphia and DC are up in Clearwater. So Philadelphia came down yesterday. I'm actually going to Clearwater. I'm scheduled to on Friday to interview Gressel and Yamil Assad.
Very cool.
After Atlanta United's training is done. Yeah, so that's going to be fun. It's about an hour and a half or so up there.
Yeah, not bad.
Hop in my rented Nissan Maxima and go.
There you go. What else can we be looking forward to from your time in Florida?
Well, I've got to figure out what I want to write Thursday for Friday. If there's anything that y'all would like to see, you can throw it by me, or you could tweet at me at Doug Robertson AJC, and I'll ask Winkler to let me know. I was trying to get with Jeff and Brad yesterday to ask about the CBA negotiations because the deadline is in a day?
Yeah, midnight.
2 days? The 31st?
Midnight on the 31st.
Yeah. But apparently they were busy or couldn't talk or something like that. So I might try that again today. But if y'all have an idea of something or someone you would like me to talk to, I can put in a request and go from there.
All right. So are we doing our first Southern Fried Soccer post-game in Birmingham?
Yes. I wasn't sure if you were going to Birmingham.
Yep. We're calling it for 92.9 The Game. Full radio broadcast for that one.
Great. Then, sure. I haven't been to the press box in Birmingham, but I'm sure we can find a spot.
I don't know about that, but we'll find somewhere to talk.
You'll have to find a spot. It is not the most spacious press box.
Now there is the game's is it 3:30 Central Time or 3:30 Eastern Time?
I think it's 3:30 Central.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for dinner, there's a great German place downtown Birmingham. It's called like Bort or Brat or something like that. It's awesome. I went there for lunch last year. Y'all should hit that up.
That might be the post-game dinner spot then.
Yeah. Bort or something like that.
Okay.
It's kind of like a beer garden type of a thing. It's really cool. I have in-laws and family that live on top of a mountain there, so I'm going to go stay with them after the game.
Very cool.
Yeah, but it's going to be fun.
All right. Well, that might be the post-game spot, and we'll record some Southern Fried Soccer before that, and everybody will be following all of your tweets like they did yesterday during the game. I think you made a lot of people happy with coverage of that one yesterday.
Yeah, I feel bad because, I missed Pity Martinez pass to Emerson to Joseph on that first goal, because where we're sitting, it's like two rows up. So you're having to look through all the players to try to figure out what's going on. And I saw Barco, pressure, and somebody got the ball. And I saw Emerson's pass. I didn't see Pitty's pass because he was, there were like 3 to 4 players in between he and I in my sideline. So I felt bad about that. But I went back and added it in the story. Because, when you're watching the game, I'm trying to tweet, I'm trying to take notes at the same time. Sometimes I just miss a couple of things. So I felt bad.
Yeah, things get left out, especially with that angle, because you can't always see everything. You can get screened, too.
Well, some people think I don't like Pitty, and so I really felt bad that I missed the pass on that. And I have no issues whatsoever with Pitty. It's just my job to write what I see. And unfortunately, the first half of last season, it seemed like there was not as many positive things as negative things. But then as things improved in the second half of the season, I think there was more positive than negative things. And that's just part of the job.
You'll have plenty to write about Saturday and the rest of this preseason, and you'll have plenty of time to talk to us this season, too. Looking forward to all of the conversations in 2020, my friend.
I got a title to defend.
That you do.
It's true. I might have to make some petitioning to the scoring system to try to slant things in my favor.
Modified stable for...
clarifying how the scoring system works, because I'm still just totally lost.
I just wait and see what happens.
You won. What do you care?
Now, how are your fantasy teams doing? Have y'all checked on those recently?
I'm like so average. My
I'm right in the middle.
Is so right in the middle.
What teams are y'all's?
Mine was the Virginia Highlanders in the league.
Okay.
And I'm Vulture Culture. I'm two games back.
Okay. Because it's a massive week. I was looking at the games today, and all the top 6, I think, are playing each other.
Ooh.
Very good. We will see how this goes. Doug, thanks for your time. See if you get to the bottom of the story with the boat. Don't get to the bottom of the boat that's sunk. That would be bad.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Be good.
See you later, Doug. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. We're going to take a quick break here and reset because we do have a couple things that we need to discuss on the show. So give us 1 second. While we are doing that, John, why don't you tell us about the Georgia High School Soccer Game of the Week schedule that starts on Tuesday?
It starts on Tuesday, and we actually had a game added to the schedule yesterday. So we are now with a 9-game schedule currently. Tuesday, February 4th, it is Norcross and North Gwinnett. And I'm trying to find out, I remember, who was it that gave us the helpful eating hint for the game up there? I'll find it here in a second. But leading off, it is Tuesday, Norcross, North Gwinnett, Tom Robinson Memorial Stadium. We will be there for both.
There's your musical accompaniment.
All right. Yeah.
Just talk. Don't do a silly voice.
Starts on Tuesday. So that's where we are with the first one. Friday, February 21st, we're at Harrison for Pope and Harrison. Tuesday, March 3rd, Parkview and Roswell. We're to that one. Following Tuesday, March 10th, North Springs and Riverwood. The game that was added to the schedule is when we start to go on the road. March 17th, the doubleheader with Vidalia and Toombs County.
Yes.
See them, yes. Vidalia and Toombs County with their electric offense on the girls' side last year that got them to the state championship.
90-goal scorer, Matty Owen. 90 goals as a sophomore. 90. 10 short of 100.
So we'll see if she's going to chase a Hyundai this year. That's what looking forward to there. Then Tuesday, March 24th, we're at Chapel Stadium, Harmon Field for Sprayberry and Dalton. Tuesday, March 31st, we are in the beautiful, bustling downtown section of Decatur for Lakeside and the Decatur Bulldogs. Friday, April 3rd, we're in Blairsville, East Holland, Union County's doubleheader, and then the regular season ends for us. Tuesday, April 14th, in Watkinsville, Social Circle, Anaconee County. It is Senior Day, Senior Night, it'll be good to catch up with the Warriors there. So that's the schedule as it stands. So,
pretty good timing. Almost hit the post there. Not bad. You didn't even know it was coming. You almost hit it.
Yeah, I don't know that piece of music.
It's okay. It's understandable. It's, not really anybody that you would know because we can't play those songs. We don't have those rights to do these things. But we do the best we can around here. We're not quite that big. So we do what we can do.
Oh, Ricky Ricardo was suggestions for North Gwinnett and Norcross. We should stop at either the Cuban Cafe in Norcross or MJ's Korean Tacos and Wings. You cannot go wrong! !
Okay. Those all sound like winners. So if you are down in Toombs County or if you're up in Blairsville and you want to make suggestions over in Watkinsville, you can let us know where the pregame or postgame meal needs to be in our Georgia High School Game of the Week travels around the state in 2020. All right, we had some more Thursday thoughts. Let's try to finish those before we wrap up.
All right, rapid fire. Here we go. Tafka's calm summary of yesterday. 1, too many changes at once. Couldn't avoid it? Maybe, but I think better planning could have occurred, but it is what it is.
No, not going to let that slide. Sorry, Tafka.
All right.
How could you plan it? That's the problem here. And this is my pushback on this part of it. Villalba wanted more playing time. Ask for a move. Gressel wanted a contract. Didn't want to wait for the CBA. Ask for a trade. Nagby you knew was an issue when we wanted to go back to Columbus last season at this time. LGP, I don't think you could have planned for. I don't think that one was expected at all. So I don't know what you could have done differently. I really don't. When the players want to go, do you want to keep them here if they don't want to go? That's the problem with that I have. I don't think you had another solution. Go ahead. Sorry.
All right, no worries. 2, we are not complete.
No.
Order of importance for signings. Starting caliber center mid, winger, left back, depth caliber winger. Give me that and I'll be optimistic.
Okay,
that's all in caps.
Slow down. You put 2 wingers on there, and if you're playing a 3-4-3 or 3-5-2, you're not playing with wingers. So don't get so hung up on certain positions. The central midfield thing, the team said that. They want to upgrade there. It sounds like they're different players that have been specifically linked to activity. Joseto is the new one. So we will see where that goes. But I also think that what you have is pretty good too. But wingers, I don't even know if that's going to come into play. I really, truly don't. You have people who can play on the wing. Brooks Lennon can play on the wing. We've seen Barco play on the wing. We've seen Pitti play on the wing. Luis Fernando can play on the wing. You have players who can play the wing. I think when you really start to connect the dots on these moves and where this team is right now, and you even include the rumors that have sounded more likely in the last couple of days with Joseto and with Arzamendia, you're talking about 2 players that would keep you in that 3-4-3, 3-5-2 setup. So I don't think wingers are nearly as big a priority as others would. And I thought they might be when Gressel left, because I thought if you're going to play 4-3-3, that would be that playing time that Villalba wanted. If Villalba wanted playing time, it wasn't going to be guaranteed to him. I don't think it's just because you can't guarantee playing time to anybody. I think the way this team is going to play, the lineups that you've seen, the little bits of video that you've seen, push you more to 3 center backs and wing backs, not wingers.
Tafka says, give me that, I'll be optimistic. 3 of 4.
3 to 4 what?
3 of the 4 of his requested players to fill in roster slots.
This is where I think the demands are getting kind of wild. Like, so you have to get 3 of those, or you're not going to have any optimism about the season. That's like, whoa, that's some negativity. Go like we did earlier. Compare Atlanta United's lineup yesterday with Mulroney on the left side. Compare that to New York City, to Toronto, to D.C., to Columbus, to New England, and tell me how deficient it is. Explain it to me, because I don't think it is. Are there places you can get better? Sure. Are there weaker players in one position for Atlanta that compared to a player for New York City might be different? Absolutely. But the opposite is true as well. So even if you want to get better, you need to get better, you wish there hadn't been as many moves that happened, all those things, the facts are when you look at the lineups and you start to compare them, this is not a team that should be struggling to get into the playoffs at all. This is a team that is among the best in the East. I think if you're trying to say they're not, you're reaching more than the reach about Hyndman being a quality player and Lennon being a quality player. I just think trying to say that they're not a playoff team or they've got to make all these changes in addition to what's been going on, you've got to make all these additions to be optimistic about 2020. It's like, man, switch the flavor of Kool-Aid. It's okay. It's not that bad. Ay.
3, Barco and PT are excellent players, but banking on both to contribute the needed 20 to 30 goals a season is a big ask when neither has more than 5 a season.
Nobody said they needed to score 30 goals this season. That's insane. Like, who? No. That's absurd. Because, no, they're not that kind of goal scorer. Assists? Yeah, you can look at the assist projection. But goals? I don't think anybody in their right mind has said that they're supposed to be scoring double-digit goals on that kind of a basis. Pitty can get into the 10 range. Not Pitty and Barco scoring 20 or 30 combined. I don't see it. If anybody's scoring goals out of the 2, it's Pitty, and 10 is kind of where you'd love to see it. That's... I don't know where that's coming from. So, because you didn't lose that many goals. And again, if you want to compare it to what you've lost, Gressel averaged 5 goals a year. Villalba, he had 1 good year of scoring. He had 2 where he didn't score as much. He didn't score a whole lot last year. Nagbe never scored a bunch of goals. That's not who he was as a player. So, LGP was good for a goal or 2 on a set piece. Like, you're not trying to replace a bunch of goals. So I don't know who's asking for 30 goals out of Barco and Pitty. That's wild.
4, gelling in time to compete in CONCACAF Champions League will be a big challenge when so many new pieces are coming in. Whether the sale of 4 players were needed or not, its biggest impact will be on CCL, which is my main goal.
It can be. It absolutely can be. But again, I don't think you had a whole lot of options. And Tafka's yelling at me on Twitter, which is completely cool. And no, nobody's upset. It's all good. You knew Gressel was going to want that kind of money. And you knew you didn't want to pay that kind of money until you saw what the CBA was. That's been consistent. You knew LGP would want the same. Did you want to give LGP, we don't know what Tijuana's given him, but you can assume it's a raise. Would you have wanted to give him more? You do have a cap, and that's the part of it. It's like, okay, you knew that 2 players wanted more money. Could you afford to pay him? I don't know if you could have. That's a flat out. And you knew Tito wanted to, people thought Tito was going to be gone at the end of last season. So that's the last one of these, and most people thought it would be the first. So that one's nothing. I'm sorry. That's a complete overreaction in terms of his importance in the team last year, because he was not a vital part of it. None of these could be accommodated. I don't know. I don't know the cap. You don't know the cap. Nobody knows the cap. That's what sucks about this. But I don't think you could have given Gressel a raise from 133 to 700,000 without cutting elsewhere. I don't think there was any way you could have given LGP and Gressel more money without cutting elsewhere, which is part of the problem that everybody's having. Is you've cut salary, you're just banking money, and they're just rolling around in money, and they're not trying to spend any money, and now they're getting cheap, like all these kinds of things. You have limits. I don't think they were 500,000-600,000 under the cap last year to just give Gressel what he wanted. And honestly, and I know there are people who are going to disagree with this. I think there's a serious question mark about giving Gressel a 4-year contract that's going to take him into the $3 million range over that 4 years. That's a big jump I don't think he produces like he did here in D.C., and that's a D.C. issue. That's not, if you had given him that, would he have produced here? He would have produced to earn that kind of money if you played him in a 3-5-2 and you played him as a wingback and you played Escobar as the right center back behind him, or if that ever changed, somebody who could cover for him drifting out wide, because he's a defensive liability at times. He would not have produced like that in a 4-3-3, in a 3-4-3, playing as a central midfielder, playing as a right back, playing as a 10, playing as a right winger in a 4-3-3. I don't think he would produce like he is getting paid like that. And I think when you compare all of the moves, and you have to do that because if you want to pick a move apart, you can pick one apart and take it out of context. I think what you're seeing from the moves that have been made, the decisions not to give Gressel that kind of money, that I don't think it's an assumption that he should have gotten it. Same with LGP. I don't know if you would have felt comfortable giving him a 3 or 4 year deal and giving him more money. Those are not easy decisions. I don't think they're just simple, oh yeah, why didn't they know this was going to happen? I don't think that's fair. But I think what you're seeing is you're bringing in players, and let's just take the direct replacements, and that's not how this works, and we all know it, but Lennon and Meza. What is the difference? Versatility, speed, quickness. Okay. You want a team that's going to be fast. You want a team that's going to play fast. You want a team that's going to be more versatile, a team that's going to be able to make decisions on the field that you adjust. You know when to press. You know when not to press. You know when to shift. You know when to go to a line of 4 as opposed to a line of 5, as opposed to 3 center backs with your wing backs up high. You brought in 2 players who have more versatility than the 2 players that were in those roles before. You also brought them in, allegedly, for combined probably more money than these 2 players are getting now. Not what they were getting before, what they're getting now. You've created more leverage in other spots where you can add other players and you can address other issues. You can't just, and this is where I push back, because it's easy to get worked up about every single thing. But going through this, you can't pay Gressel $700,000, pay LGP more money than he was making, keep Tito and give him the playing time that he wants on the numbers he's on. You can't do all of that and replace Nagbe. You don't have the space. You don't have the cap room. And you don't get better. Do you think that those 3 are just completely and utterly better than you could ever get? No, I disagree with that. So the offseason is not done. You would expect that there are other players coming in. The team is not shied away from saying they want to bring in a central midfielder. But you have to look at all of it and try as best you can to take the emotion out of it, because the emotion can cloud judgment. You can't just keep paying guys more money and more money to keep them, because eventually you kill your salary cap. And like it or not, it's a salary cap. You know, the winger stuff are people who can score. I've said you need somebody else to step up and score more, and that would have been the case if Gressel stayed. That would have been the case if Villalba stayed, because neither one scored much last year. So I think Brooks Lennon is as capable of doing what Julian Gressel did from a goal-scoring perspective. I think he can get more, honestly, because I think he's going to get in behind more. He's not going to stay out wide. He's going to get different opportunities. I think Pitty's going to get more than he got last year. Does he get more than 10? I don't know. If he gets 10, I'm happy. Barco, healthy. He's never been a big goal scorer, but if he gets 5-6, I'm good with that. And then we see what the central midfield looks like, because you weren't getting goals out of Nagbe. Do you get 5, 6, 7 out of Heineman? Do you get 5, 6, 7 out of whatever an addition could be? Absolutely. You can. And do you get better defensively? I think you can. And that's also part of all of it. And the thing, if Joseph gets hurt, who scores? I mean, did you trust Brandon Vasquez or Mario Williams to be that guy? No, nobody did. Adam John has a better track record in any of that than anybody you've had as a backup forward. So that is what it is. That's the life of a cap league, and that's the life of MLS. If Carlos Vela gets hurt, what happens to LAFC? If Chicharito gets hurt for the LA Galaxy, what happens? You saw the difference with New York City when Eber was hurt. If Ola Kamara gets hurt, I mean, that's reality in this league. And that's a different conversation altogether. So, look, it's not easy, but I'm just surprised, not that people are emotionally reacting to favorite players being gone, but thinking that the front office doesn't know what they're doing because these players are not here. That's where it gets to, well, did they forget? Because it's the same people, and they've built one of the best squads in league history from scratch. So I don't think anybody forgot how to do it. It's just not as easy as you might think sometimes, and we don't have all the information. You don't know what players are saying when they're making demands. You don't know what the salary cap truly looks like. You don't know how much allocation money you're sitting on. There are so many unknowns, and some of the conclusions that get jumped to are, surprising. Nobody knows how it's going to work out. I'm optimistic about it because I like the additions, and I think I see where it's going. A team that's going to be quick, a team that's going to be fast, a team that's going to be very flexible tactically, and a team that I would expect to be more comfortable with Frank de Boer in year 2. That's what I'm seeing. Doesn't mean it happens. Doesn't mean that I know everything. Doesn't mean that other people know everything either. Doesn't mean that it starts one way and then finishes one way. We saw that last year. I just think the level of pessimism has been wow. And we'll see if it's warranted, because that's pro sports, isn't it? You can make all the right moves. You can still end up getting it wrong because those right moves were made at one point. Things can change. Players can have a bad year. Players can have a great year. Injuries can happen. You can stay healthy. There's so many unknowns to this that there are never any guarantees. So I don't know why it's just gotten so pessimistic about it, but that's not my personality either. So that's probably the biggest difference with it, is I'm generally the other way. I'm not a pessimistic person. I try really hard not to be cynical and just look for the bad in situations. I am almost always looking for the good in it. So if you wonder why I take that approach, that's just how I am. And if it's the opposite, that's fine. Where I get a little frustrated and take things personally at times is when people question, if I know what I'm doing or if I know what I'm saying. This was something that stuck with me a little bit with all the Kobe Bryant conversation this week. That guy was a talented player, and he would have been a talented player no matter what. But he became one of the best ever because of his work. And he always felt like there was somebody else there to take his job, or somebody else there that was doing it better. Jerry West talked about like he'd come back every offseason and had improved some part of his game. That's the approach that I try to have to understanding this game, because I don't know everything. Nobody out there should tell you that they know everything about soccer. People who do question it, because it's always changing, and there's so many things you can't know everything. It's impossible. Nobody's watching every league in the world. Nobody knows every player that gets mentioned. Nobody knows all of it. Nobody knows everything about every aspect of the game, whether it's historical, whether it's current. Nobody does. You got to put in the work. I try not to just toss off a hot take and leave it. Something comes up, I want to get to know it. Frank de Boer was introduced as the manager. I can't tell you how much I read about the Dutch game, the Dutch system, his career, people who influenced him, mentors, people that he had worked with, to try to get to understand his mentality and the way he thinks. You just try to put in the work to understand as much as possible. And I try to give y'all who listen as much of that as I can and as level-headed as I can. Because I want y'all to make your own decisions about it. I don't want to just hit you over the head with an opinion and not back it up and just tell you it's right. That's not fair. I like these back and forths. I like this, like with Tafka. He's coming at it from a different approach. He's coming at it from the pessimistic approach. I'm telling you why I feel the way I do. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean that it can't ever be wrong. It's why I think the way that I think. That's what's great about this. And I hope that people understand it, who listen to the show, understand that. The back and forth is important. It's critical to learning, to understanding, to learning more. Because when these questions come up, when this different approach comes in, it makes me think about things differently. That's good. That's how you grow and understand more. It might not change your opinion, but it makes you look at it from a different perspective. It's all part of this. So that was a very long-winded, rambling way around it, but none of it is easy. Nobody has all the answers, and you have to put in the work to understand it. And for you guys who listen to us, thank you for putting in the work, listening to us ramble for hours on hours a day. But I hope that it's helpful in some way, and I hope that it's entertaining, especially when John doesn't drink his Mountain Dew and gets fired up about articles first thing in the morning. I hope that's entertaining.
For someone who's not a morning person to get fired up in the morning, it takes a lot.
And I hope that it's informative and all of that, too. And I hope y'all just respect that, we're trying to give you the best show that we possibly can and not be oh, this sucks. Why? Oh, well, it sucks. We try to go at least to the next level. Kind of
a little more depth involved there.
We try to at least answer the why it sucks or the why it's good. We try to at least get there. So we will keep trying to do that. And we'll keep having these conversations because this is the fun of it, isn't it? Everybody looks at this game differently. Everybody played for different coaches. Everybody likes different teams. Everybody has different things they like about the game and things that they hate about the game. You get defensive managers, you get attack-minded managers. You get managers like Jose Mourinho who says, we don't want the ball because we'll make a mistake. And you get managers who say, we want the ball because we can control the game that way. And you can have two of the best managers in the world have that different of an approach of the way they build a team. So, welcome to soccer. This is what we do. Thanks for being part of all of it. And even when we disagree, that's what's fun about it.
Especially when you don't have any caffeine in your system.
Yeah, because then John's just disagreeing with everything when that happens.
Bring out the flamethrower and tear it all down.
So we had I'm trying to see what the conversation is. So the son of FC Cincinnati's general manager is saying that Cincinnati's about to sign a striker from a top 5 league who is going to contend with Joseph Martinez as the top goal getter in this league. It's interesting he mentioned Joseph specifically, not Carlos Vela, but anyway.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't wait to see who this is. He went on to say, yes, done deal. The next forward player from a top 5 league in Europe is coming to FC Cincinnati. Announcement soon. I'm on pins and needles. Who's it going to be?
Thank you, Simone.
That's bold. Maybe putting a little more pressure on the player than you need to, but, I'm just saying. Wow. I'm excited. These are good things.
Yeah, give me the name. I want a little more than so and so's son said this and saw Ferris at 31 Flavors last night. It's like a little more detail. Can't wait. Who's it going to be? Bring it.
Well, you're negative about everything, so that's no surprise.
Until I have more evidence, counselor, I'm going to be negative.
You're always negative about it all. It's funny. It's entertaining.
The nattering nabob of negativism.
Yes, especially when you don't get enough caffeine.
You ain't kidding, brother.
Anything else on the Twitters we need to hit before we go?
A lot.
Wow, a lot. Sorry, I went off on a long tangent talking to Tafka. So, yes. Tafka, we good, bro? All right.
Yeah. But no, there's a lot of it. A lot of it is from Tafka, so I'm trying to figure out the conversation
that
is
not. We can come back to it tomorrow if we need to, because I think we've talked about most of it. Is there anybody else we need to hit? Because I don't want to leave anybody out.
No. Like I said, I'm buzzing through to see. Public service announcement from both ATO UTD fan number 1 and Daniel Price.
Okay.
Season ticket members presale access to CCL round of 16 is now apparently up and running.
And there you go.
Patrick Cox is listening. He says he currently had to deboard a plane because they spilled fuel all over the place. He says at least he can listen to us from Bakersfield, California.
That's not good.
Especially if you're in Bakersfield. He says, yep, missed his connecting flight, still in Bakersfield. Does this make him eligible to vote in California?
I was going to say that the plane spilling fuel all over the place was not good. I have nothing against Bakersfield, California. Wow.
yeah, I know. It's just,
I'm going to go with the fuel everywhere is probably the bigger problem.
Yeah, and that probably has made the morning news out there in Bakersfield. And FC Waffle is listening in Olympia, Washington, by the way.
So we're in California and Washington today. Nice.
And Percy Herrera claims to be listening from the Esperanza base in Antarctica.
I'm skeptical.
Yes, I am skeptical about that.
I am quite skeptical of that.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
That's right.
Bartimus Prime. Everyone seems to be worried about the depth for Atlanta United, but what Eastern Conference teams have depth?
That's a good way to spin it. DC doesn't have depth, so that's one you can take straight out. Columbus has depth defensively, but nowhere else. Their front six, I'm going to leave Aiden Morris out of it. So let's take the forward out of it because they'll generally play with Zardes up top by himself. So the 3 central midfielders and the 2 wingers. Columbus has Nagbe, Trapp, Artur as the central midfield options. Zelarayan as the 10, if you want to include him in that group. So 4 for 3. And winger options, 3. Mokhtar, Santos, Diaz. Could you maybe put J.J. Williams out wide, Jordan Hamilton out wide? Maybe. You're not putting Fernando Adi out wide. Incredibly thin out wide. And that's a team that is a good one in the East. New England, pretty good depth. You've got depth up top. You don't have a lot of depth defensively. You've got 6 defenders, and 1 is a draft pick. So you've got 5 defenders for 4 spots. You can bring DeJuan Jones into that mix. So let's say 6. You could play Kellen Rowe as a left back in a pinch, but left back's actually not the spot that you're thinner. So that's New England. New York City's pretty good depth-wise, actually. Out wide, wing back would be where they're thinnest. They just added the Icelandic left back. You want to take a shot at his name, John?
Yeah, hang on just a second, because when the release happened, it was, and I was
Thorarensen.
Thorarensen.
Thorarensen. Depth behind Monterita. You have Joe Scally on the right side, who's leaving at the end of the year. Okay, that's where they're an issue with depth. Toronto. There's really nobody to play on the left side in the back past Justin Morrow. Center back, you're good. Right back, you've got 2 good options. Central midfield, with Bradley out, you're going to be asking Noble Okello to step up and be that guy. He's been a TFC2 guy, so that's thin because of the injury. Wingers, you've got a lot of guys, but do you have a lot of impact makers? That's a valid question. And it depends on how you feel about Patrick Mullins or Ayo Akinola. Those are your options behind Josie Altidore. So MLS depth is going to be an issue, period. And that's another reflection on the salary cap. I actually feel pretty good about the different possible shapes Atlanta can play as they're currently constructed with depth. I think you've got 2 starting options at every position on the field. You can go too deep in a 3-4-3, in a 3-5-2, in a 4-3-3. Getting past that, man, that's hard for any team in this league. If you got 2 good options everywhere, and look, Adam John's not Joseph Martinez, we all know that, but he's coming in here and understanding that role. You lose your number 1 player, especially your number 1 goal scorer, any team in this league is going to struggle. I think that's just understood. That's honestly understood most clubs in the world, let alone a club with a salary cap.
All right, you want to rapid fire the balance of these?
Sure.
All right, Bart's follow-up. Are there even 5 teams ready to jump us? I think Red Bulls and DC are more in danger of missing the playoffs.
Yes, I would agree with that. DC has talent. It's more about how they put it together. Red Bulls, since 2018, you look at who they've lost and what they brought in, wow. Outside of those 2 falling, and we went through it, I could see DC falling to 6, if we want to put it that way, 6-7.
Yeah,
I could see Red Bulls
6-7.
falling out. I could see Columbus coming into the mix. I could see Orlando passing Red Bulls and maybe DC, depending on how the pieces come together. I don't have any expectation for Chicago. I don't have really any expectation for Montreal. Philadelphia should be right there in the top 6 in the East. Should be. There's some questions, but they're different kinds of questions. And Miami, we just don't know. I mean, now the rumor was Edinson Cavani could be back in the mix for Inter Miami, which people thought he was going to be too expensive. Has that changed? Don't know. Now you've got the defensive midfielder. That would strengthen that part of the team, but it doesn't necessarily answer any of the lingering big questions. So I don't know where Miami is. I mean, I think they're better than Cincinnati. I think they're better than Chicago right now. I think they're probably better than Montreal right now.
Yep.
Past that, it's going to depend on who they bring in. But with who they could bring in, they could climb pretty high. They're the biggest unknown in the East. But would I put anybody jumping Atlanta out of the top teams we've talked about? And I would say it's New York City, Toronto, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Columbus, New England as your best 6 teams in the East. Could Atlanta finish 6th out of that? I don't think it's likely. I don't. But I think those are your 6 teams that have any chance of that. I don't think there's anybody else. So, I mean, where it's went from can you win CONCACAF, can you win MLS Cup, to can you make the playoffs, that's where it's, whoa, okay, this conversation's gotten way off the rails.
5 Stripe Daily this morning. My question about DC is, can Ben Olsen handle the talent now? Real deep squad for the first time in a while. Have to feel like it's his biggest risk-reward season.
But that's the thing. They're not deep. They've got talent, but they're not deep at all. They've got 1 left back, Joseph Mora. I don't know who's playing right back. They've got 3 center backs. They've got 1 forward. Like, they're not deep. So I'll take that part out. Can Ben Olsen handle them? I'll disagree with that because I think he handled the Wayne Rooney, Luciano Acosta duo really well in 2018. And I don't think 2019, I'm going to put it on Olsen. I don't think he had anything to do with Wayne Rooney's wife getting homesick, wanting to go back to England. I don't think Ben Olsen had anything to do with the transfer saga that fell through at the last minute with Acosta. And I think those were the 2 biggest influences on DC United in 2019. So I think Olsen will be fine. I just don't know if the pieces match up. And they've still got work to do, and they've talked about going to Europe for a defender. We'll see who they can get. If they don't get anybody by tomorrow, you're looking at somebody who is not a focal point of a team. You're looking at somebody who is completely expendable and they don't have to replace. Can you get somebody like that to come in and make an impact? It's not likely. Can you get somebody like that to come in and be depth? Yeah, maybe. But I think they need a lot of depth.
Percy actually agrees with me.
What?
I know. He said that before he told us he was listening from Antarctica, he mentioned that P.T. Martinez last year, he said he was amazing in Argentina, didn't adapt well the first half of the season. You can't say definitely that Edison and Flores will thrive.
I think the Mexico jump to MLS is a little less of a jolt than Argentina to MLS. I think Flores and Pitti are different kinds of players too. Doesn't mean that Flores comes in and scores 10 and 10, but I think the risk is less of him adapting. I think the risk of him adapting is more about the team around him than him. I think he'll be fine.
Colonel comes in this morning. Morning, Colonel. Preseason results mean Nada and Dupe are a training week behind, but a 1-0 and a 4-0 kind of validate where the Stripes are with all this coming and going. More to add.
Yeah, I mean, it's preseason, but you got to feel pretty good about what you've seen so far, and you can see more on Saturday, 5 o'clock.
Saturday.
atlutd.com/live. Kevin Egan and myself, we will have the call for you. You can watch Atlanta United and Elfsborg from Sweden.
FC Waffle linked to an article from Sport Business where apparently MLS Soccer and U.S. Soccer have agreed to an exclusive data rights deal with Stats Perform that will enable them to collectively provide real-time data to betting operators for the first time. He says, this is very interesting.
It's all heading in that direction. I mean, you've got to have the competitive integrity, and that's something that I think USL has signed partnerships on. I would assume MLS and U.S. Soccer in this room too. But yeah, that's where there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money to be made in this. Look at most English games and how many ads you see on a shirt
jersey
or on the signboards for betting companies. That's where it's going. It's going to be transformative, and I think for MLS to get out in front of it is a smart move because I think the NFL is really scared of getting out in front of it. I think baseball's had their issues with this. Go ask Pete Rose.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA has been aggressive in this area, and I think MLS has. I think there's a lot to benefit if MLS does it in the right way. So, I mean, if you get to a point where you can run out of the hype depot and run to the betting window, if you think Joseph Martinez is going to score in the final 30 minutes, I don't know how close that is, but I think you're going to see more of that relationship grow pretty soon.
Also on the board, got a couple more before we go.
Okay.
James McClatchy, by the way, fantastic photo of the McClatchys when they went to go see the match at Aberdeen. Love that photo.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was very cool that Aberdeen welcomed them in a big way.
Yes. He says, Mulroney came from a team at the bottom of the Scottish Premier League, seems unlikely to be a force in MLS. Can you explain the signing?
Depth. I mean, I think it's a depth. I think when you look at level of salary and maybe expectation, it's Dion Pereira. He's not that as a player, but where he fits into a roster and a depth chart is there, but more versatile because he can play as a wingback. He can play as an outside back, and he can play on the left and the right side, and he's faster. So you've found some skills that come into it. This is something that comes up a lot when you see a player come to a team. And it's like, oh, they're coming from a bad team or they're coming from a bad league. How could they actually be involved here? Take the flip side. Sometimes you see a player leave from a certain team, a good team, and go to another team and fail. Sometimes it's fit. Sometimes it's coaching. Sometimes it's level. Sometimes it's just style. I don't know. I think Mulroney's raw abilities that he brings to the table are something that this club can use. And if you want to get faster, if you want to get more versatile, you've added a player who can do that. Maybe Hearts was a bad fit for him. Maybe he shouldn't have signed there. Who knows? Maybe things change. I don't know Hart's well enough to say if he was signed under one regime and then they changed and then it wasn't a fit. Hart's has got a lot of problems, and it wasn't Jake Mulroney's fault that they were in the bottom of the table. So we'll see how that falls. Sometimes it's that change of scenery. Sometimes it's just that being in the right club that suits the way you play, you can get the best out of that player.
Chris Kilroy, looking at our Game of the Week schedule, wants us to add the Battle of West Paces Ferry onto the schedule.
Which is?
Lovett and Westminster.
Depends on the date. That's the hardest thing about it is we were kind of limited in some of the dates we chose based off my schedule, John's schedule, Atlanta United schedule, Atlanta United 2 schedule. So we had to kind of zero in on Tuesdays for the most part, because of a lack of conflicts. And I don't have a clone yet.
No, neither of us do. Malpinjo, hey guys, which of our preseason opponents are going to give our defense the biggest test? I feel like we need one before CONCACAF Champions League starts.
That's hard to say, and you don't know where everybody is in preseason, what they're trying to get out of it, so it's always a crapshoot. Elfsborg, being a mid-table Swedish team, looks like they predominantly play a 4-3-3. That'll be a good test for a team that wants to play 3 center backs but have wing backs drop and be able to handle a front 3. So that's a good test. Birmingham will be different. Birmingham will play differently. Honestly, in the way that they play, I think Motagua is a fairly direct team. Birmingham will probably be fairly direct, so that'll help stylistically. We don't know what's going to come out of the Mexico trip. I think it's a safe assumption that there'll be some kind of a game, whether it's behind closed doors or something, and we don't know who it'll be with. So that one's another one that's just you can't really predict yet. But style of play, you could get something similar in that one too. So you're going to get pieces of all of the ones remaining that will help you benefit for it, and that's probably why it was scheduled that way.
And I want to thank a lot of you for having conversations with each other this morning. That's been the fun part of seeing this go for an extra 40-plus minutes, is that you guys are having conversations with us and each other. So thanks for doing that on a daily basis, and thanks for engaging each other and engaging us as well. I think we're caught up with direct comments to us.
Cool. It's been a long show. It's been a fun show, though. Thanks for all the feedback and back and forth. That's what we thrive on with this. And this time of year is where we can hit a lot of it. When you get into the season, sometimes things get crazy. There's so much to recap that it's a little bit harder to do these types of shows. Make sure you've got a couple things on your calendar. Saturday, 5 o'clock.
Saturday.
Many times. We'll say it again tomorrow. Looking forward to that, working with Kevin Egan, calling the Atlanta Elfsborg match. Make sure you have February 8th on your calendar. Atlanta United and Birmingham. You will be able to listen to that on 92.9 The Game with Mike Conti and myself. Full regular season level production, 30-minute pregame, hour of postgame, all on 92.9 The Game on Saturday, February 8th. On February 15th, we will be live with a Soccer Down Here extravaganza from Wild Heaven West End. Working on lots of different things that are going to make this a big show. It's our big season preview show, so we'll be through everything in preseason. It'll be a few days before the first game with Motagua. Mike Conti will be there with us. Kelly Francis will be there with us. Jessica Charman will be there with us. It will be a big, big show. We might even be able to get Jarrett Smith there. Maybe.
Big freaking show.
Maybe. We'll see if Jarrett is able to show up for that. But we will try to get the whole gang. Hopefully you guys will be there as well. And it'll be a very fun kickoff to the 2020 season. All of our high school games, all of our Soccer Over There shows live from the Brewhouse Cafe on Mondays, and all of our new run-up shows, getting you ready for Atlanta United home matches. That first one will be right before the home leg of the Motagua series. It'll be doing 24th, February 24th. 7 p.m. at the Brew House. It'll be an hour of soccer over there. We will quickly transition to the run-up, hosted by Kelly Francis and the other guy on the show this morning.
That crotchety old dude.
Hopefully he drinks some Mountain Dew before that show.
No, it's going to be later in the day. It will be Diet Dr. Pepper.
Kelly's going to backhand you at some point in the season then.
Not a shock.
Okay, fair enough. That could make for good video, and hopefully we will have some video for you for those shows. So, thank you. If you want a hat, send us a message. They're $25. If you want a scarf, send us a message. They're $20. If you want a beanie, and if you want a beanie, you probably need to really send us a message quickly. They are $20. Shipping is $5. If it's multiple items, it goes up like $1.50 or so. Shoot us a message. We'll get you set up. If you want to visit our Teespring store, go to soccerdownhere.net, and you can follow the link. Thank you. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.